Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto X. If you love Naruto what if stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. April 15th, Namikaze Mansion. It had been a year since he'd returned from the 3-year training mission with Jiraiya. As he stood on his balcony and watched the sunrise, Naruto couldn't help but smile at all the changes that had happened in that time, especially after he returned. Start flashback. The door opened and Shazan stuck her head in the office. Nad-sama, you have visitors. Sunyunad sighed and lifted her head up over the pile of paperwork on her desk. A look of annoyance on her face at being disturbed just as she got a good rhythm going in the paperwork. Shazan, I told you I didn't want to be bothered unless it was an emergency. And visitors are not an emergency. I don't care who it is. Tell them to come back later. Shazan smirked and nodded. Hi, Sunyunad-sama. I'll tell Jiraiya-sama and Naruto to come back later. Shazan giggled as Sunyunad's chair shot back into the wall and shattered. Naranade screamed in joy. The happiness radiating from her could be felt. Shazan stepped back and opened the door so Naruto could walk in, followed by Jiraiya. Shazan had a huge smile on her face as she watched the scene. Her sensei, the 5th Hokage Tsunade, hadn't smiled in well over a year. She knew how felt about Naruto. He held a very special place in Tsunade's heart. Though she knew Sunyunad would never admit her true feelings for him to anyone except for her. And even then, she'd been sworn to secrecy by Sunyunad under severe personal penalty if she even hinted at what she knew to anyone. Jumped her desk and knocked the 3 piles of papers on the floor before she rushed across her office at Naruto like a tsunami. Hi, Ba-chan. I am Naruto waved his arms frantically as Sunyunad had grabbed him and yanked him face first into her deep cleavage for a very painful hug. A few tears actually ran down her cheeks. Jiraiya stood there in slack-jawed shock at her reaction. He'd give anything to trade places with Naruto at this moment. Shazan coughed. Sama Shazan said urgently to save Naruto from being smothered to death by her friend's huge na. Shazan said as she pointed to the patch of spiky blonde hair, the only visible sign of his head. Gasped and released the now red-faced Naruto to take a few deep breaths of air and regain his composure. I'm sorry, Na, Sunyunad said as she forced her emotions down to more acceptable levels. I lost my head for a moment. I was so happy to see you again. You little brunette's eyes suddenly widened as she got a good look at Na. He'd grown quite a bit and was now slightly taller than she was, but not as tall as Jiraiya. What really got her attention, though, was how much hard muscle he'd put on, his rugged but still boyish good looks, and the whisker marks on his cheeks that only added to his charm. For a second, she forgot that she thought of him as a little brother, not to mention the almost 40-year age difference. She can't help but think how gorgeous Naruto looked. Intense thoughts and feelings crept into her mind and certain parts of her body. Luckily, she stopped and suppressed them before they showed on her face. However, what she didn't notice, but Na and Shazan did, was the brief and very slight blush on her cheeks. Shazan smirked then closed the door. Ba-chan. Na scratched the back of his head and gave his heart-melting foxy grin as he blushed in embarrassment, then noticed Sunyunad seemed to be froze. Are you okay? Suddenly snapped out of her shock and put on her normal happy face. You've grown, Na. I guess I can't call you little anymore. She ruffled his spiky blonde hair and smiled. You'll always be a brat to me, though. Na laughed and smiled at her with his trademark grin. Jiraiya coughed to get their attention. We have a lot to report. Would you like a brief summary now? Sighed sadly as her job reared its ugly head. She scooped up her papers from the floor and put them back on her desk, then sat on the edge as her chair was now on the floor in small pieces. Okay, give me a quick report. I'll read the details in the full report later. Na and Jiraiya nodded. Jiraiya started. The training went better than planned. About a year into it, everything he'd learned seemed to fall into place. From then on, he mastered every jutsu I taught him in a few weeks and seemed to get a little faster and stronger every day. Nodded and smiled at Naruto. Impressed, Jiraiya continued. He's just like his dad. Na has a real talent for enjutsu and seals. Sunyunad held up her hand to stop him. Stood straight up. A serious look now on her face. She crossed her arms over her chest and gave Jiraiya a glare that made him nervous. Sue told him everything. Jiraiya nodded nervously, hoping she wouldn't punch him through the wall. Naranade turned to look at him with a worried and sad expression. I'm so very sorry I couldn't tell you. She looked down at the floor, her shoulders slumped. Can you forgive us for keeping this from you? We promised Minato we wouldn't tell anyone, not even the council. Na looked at Sununit. She almost looked her age even with her special hench. Na gently lifted Sununit's chin and looked into her light brown eyes. Of course, I forgive you, Sama. He heard her heartbeat increase. He'd never called her that before. You're my family. I can't hate my family. He gave Sununit his warmest foxy grin. Just melted, and she hugged him, forgetting who she was for a moment. Sununit broke the hug, smiled at Na a moment before she composed herself. Thank you, Na. Continue. Jiraiya. A grinning Jiraiya nodded. He gave a brief account of the second year, leaving out several key bits of information for the moment. He did notice that Sununit seemed to know he was holding back important information, but wasn't saying anything about it. When Jiraiya gave Sununit the last part of the report, she almost fell on the floor from shock. Then her emotions exploded. You did what? Screamed with such power. The tower seemed to shake for a moment. Na and Jiraiya both felt the wave of chakra that came off of her. Naruto answered, I killed Orochimaru and the Akatsuki. Shun came in worried. Is everything all right? Sansanade-sama. Hi. Everything's fine. Thank you, Shun. Shazan nodded and closed the door. But how? Naruto. Even I couldn't kill Orochimaru. Na scratched the back of his head as he gave a foxy grin. Well, because I'm stronger than you now, I guess. He really wasn't that tough once I'd found his weakness and knew how much chakra he had. After that, he was easy to kill and Kabuto was no challenge at all, unlike the first time I fought him. But how? Na, you couldn't have gotten so strong in such a short time. Suddenly had a thought that scared her. Kailu Na grinned and nodded his head. Na Jiraiya said, you better show her now. You were going to anyway. Na sighed and nodded. Hunady raised an eyebrow. Her curiosity piqued. Na raised his hands up in front of his chest. His fingers formed to make a seal any academy student would know. Wait a second, Na. Sununit said as she raised her hand. You're using a hench. Na nodded. Sununit turned to Jiraiya and gave him a look that made him want to cover his manhood from fear of losing it. Jiraiya immediately intercepted Sununit's incoming questions. He could feel her immense chakra building to dangerous levels. Dangerous to him. Anyway, please calm down. This really is Na. It's not a trick. Jiraiya mouthed something toss that Na missed. To Naruto's surprise, Sununit's legendary rage that he also felt growing suddenly vanished. Jiraiya wouldn't bring that up unless he was sincere. He knows what I'll do to him if he even tries to abuse that. Thought her eyes opened slightly wider and her jaw briefly clenched tight. Wait a moment, Naruto. If you're going to show me what I think, I don't want us to be interrupted. Shizune. The door opened a moment later and Shazan came in. Sununit glanced at Na. Lock the door and join me. Shazan, I'm going to seal the room. Shazan did as told and seconds later stood to the right of her sensei and best friend. Nervous, she tried to ask a question, but Tsunade raised her hand, signaling her to be quiet. Shazan nodded. Tsunade took a deep breath and let it out slowly as she focused her chakra. Sununit flashed through a series of hand signs Naruto had never seen before. Jiraiya gasped in mild shock which got their attention. Sununit finished and held the last seal. House hidden in the shadows. There's a quiet whoosh and suddenly all outside sounds stopped. The window and door seemed to have vanished, leaving only wall. Jiraiya smiled. I haven't seen that in over 30 years. Jiraiya noticed Naruto's reaction. You've never heard of that jutsu because Sununit created it herself a long time ago. She's the only person that can use it. It's sort of like a bloodline limit in many ways, but she won't tell me why no one else can use it. It's like a sound seal, but nothing can get in or out until she releases it. Na. Drop the hench. Na nodded and made the hand sign. Kai, Sununit, and Shazan gasped. Tsunade had seen a lot of things in her life, some truly astonishing, but nothing could have prepared her for the changes in Naruto's parents. She'd figured correctly that it had to do with Kyuubi, and had read the reports of the few times he'd tapped into its chakra and taken on a more feral look, but this was a true transformation. He basically looked like he did with the henge. Apparently, all it did was hide his new features. His eyes were still the same deep blue color, but now had vertical slit pupils and 3 small red slashes radiating out from the center on both sides, similar to the sharing. It was eerie, but damn, she had to admit. Na saw her almost staring at his face, grinned, and revealed large upper and lower fangs. The 3 whisker marks on his cheeks were a little more feral than Sunyunid remembered them being, but they were still very attractive. Besides his eyes, the most noticeable change to his head was his ears. They were on top of his head now and were long and pointed like fox ears, but were covered in blonde fur. Just as noticeable were his hands. His fingers now ended in claw-like nails. What really got her attention, though, was behind him were 9 blonde fox tails with white tips. Only her decades of experience allowed to compose herself so soon. The seal. Is the seal intact? What exactly happened to you, Na? Jiraiya answered. I was training him to better absorb and control Kayabi's chakra. And according to what Naruto told me during the time he spent in his mindscape talking to Kayabi between training sessions, he sees Sunyunid's jaw and fists clench. All the chakra he was absorbing from Kaeli started to damage his body, as demon chakra isn't meant to be used by humans because it's far too powerful for us to handle. So either out of self-preservation or respect for him, it fused with Na. He was wrapped in red chakra for 24 hours, and when he emerged he was half demon. With both a scowl and concern on her face, Sunyunid stepped up to Na, flashed through a few hand signs at lightning speed. Her hands glowed with chakra as she activates a medical scanning jutsu. After she ran her hands around Naruto from head to toe, she released the jutsu and a sigh of relief. Whatever Kayabi did worked. There's nothing wrong with you other than the physical changes. But tomorrow morning, I want you both at the Hokage mansion at 9 for a meeting. Until I decide what to do, this is now an S-rank secret. You will tell nobody about this without my permission, am I clear? Said with her full authority. Na and Jiraiya flinched, then nodded. Pinched the bridge of her nose as a headache came on and sighed. I'm getting too old for this, said to herself a little louder than she intended. Shazan, Jiraiya, and Naruto heard her and laughed despite the fact, or maybe because she almost never swore. Looked up at them and glared angrily, which froze them in place until she smirked, shook her head in defeat, and let out a little laugh. She gave everyone a minute to calm down, then put on her best Hokage face that obliterated the light mood in the room. I want to hear about Orochimaru and the Akatsuki. And don't leave out a single detail. Got it? They nodded and told her everything from the point when they found where Orochimaru was, how he'd prepared everything to move into his new body. Sunyunid couldn't restrain herself when Naruto told her how he'd taken the sword grass cutter from Orochimaru and decapitated him with it so fast he was dead before he could even react. Sunyunid almost fell to the floor. She laughed so hard. Shazan smiled ear to ear. She hadn't heard Sunyunid laugh this hard since she was a kid and had just joined Sunyunid. The sight made her heart soar. Na waited almost 10 minutes for Tsunade to compose herself enough to listen clearly. He told her that he then used a fire-based kitsunjutsu, one of many he'd gained from the fusion with Kayabi, and reduced Orochimaru's remains to ash. This was a special jutsu. It did more than just destroy the body. It sent the soul to hell. Orochimaru could never be brought back to life. Kabuto attempted to revenge his master and was incinerated as easily. When Naruto mentioned the vessel Orochimaru was going to transfer into, Shazan and Tsunade's faces suddenly changed. Na saw this and grinned. So, how's Sasuke doing? I haven't seen him since I dropped him off at the hospital. So, it was you. I had a feeling you were behind that. Sighed sadly. Physically, he's fine. Except for that curse mark. I can't break it. I can break it. Ba-chan, would you like me to? Na asked casually. Sunyunid's eyes jumped open. You can break his curse mark. Why didn't you do it before you brought him back? Na gave his classic big grin while scratching the back of his head. I kind of forgot to. And Shazan's sweat dropped. After they recovered, Sunyunid rolled her eyes at Na and bopped him on top of his head. Ow. Na rubbed his head. Ba-chan, what did you hit me for? You may be half demon and stronger than me and Jiraiya put together. She glared at Jiraiya, stopping his super-pervaded thoughts before they could get started. You're still an S-rank knucklehead sometimes, but that's why we love you, brat. She ruffled his hair and stroked his fox ears in the process. Na grinned and gave her a hug. I love you too, Ba-chan. Okay, enough mushy stuff. What happened next? As she knew already, Na knew about the Akatsuki. It's why he left with Jiraiya in the first place. Na told her how they spent months tracking them before they finally found their headquarters. Sunyun heard the sad inflections in his voice as he told her how it had come down to him and Itachi, how he saved Sasake and repeatedly tried to convince the elder to give up and return to Konoha with him, that he'd get her to let Itachi and Sasake rebuild the Uchiha clan even after Itachi knew he couldn't beat Na. The sadness almost overwhelmed his face as Naruto told her how he was forced to kill Itachi. Sunyun knew Na had honestly tried to save Itachi despite what he'd done and how he felt about the older Uchiha. Na then told Sunyun about Pain and how powerful he was. When he told Sunaid how casually Pain had mentioned that once he killed Na, he was going to destroy Konoha after he'd raped then ripped her in half. Naruto had a great deal of trouble forcing himself to repeat Pain's threat. Sunyun visibly cringed from fear. Shazan fainted dead away, unable to handle the image that flashed through her mind. Only took a few minutes to regain her composure, but it took them over 20 minutes just to get Shazan awake and keep her that way, and another 6 to calm her down. All three looked at Shizune in surprise when the usually reserved brunette told them after this meeting she was going to the Hokage mansion where she lived and get falling down drunk on sake. Help me forget about all of this and make me smile again, Shazan said seriously. Sunyun instantly stood in front of Jiraiya. The room so thick with killing intent, you could almost see it. She told him that if he so much as smirked in Shazan's general direction, she could guarantee him a death so horrible that even the Shinigami himself would bow to her in humble respect. Na had to sit down on the bench by the wall, actually scared of Sunyun, despite the fact he knew he was more powerful than her. He'd never felt killer intent so powerful in his life. Jiraiya was suddenly drenched in sweat. He bowed as best he could with her inches from him. Hyunid-sama, you have my most solemn vow. This caught Evans off guard. She knew him better than anyone, and he'd told her countless times, as far back as she could remember, that he'd never refer to her as Sama, but he'd just done it. Had to step back and calm down. The tension in the room dropped dramatically. Jiraiya sat on the bench next to Naruto and suddenly found the floor very interesting. When she felt a hand on her shoulder, turned to see Shazan. It's okay, Sunyunid-chan. Really, I know you want to protect me, but it's okay, Shazan said. Kay knew what it meant when Shazan called her Chan. You sure? I don't want you making offers like that around him. You know what a pervert he is. I don't want your fi. Shazan squeezed Sunyunid's shoulder. She got the message. I just don't want you hurt Shizune. Still faced Tadase with Shazan. A cruel smirk suddenly curled the corners of her mouth, which Shazan saw. Sunyunid winked at her and motioned with her eyes. Shazan knew what Sade was about to do and nodded slightly, playing along. If you want to spend some time with Naruto, however, turned and smiled knowingly at him, I won't object. I know he'd be good to you. Shazan looked at Naruto with a very convincing and somewhat sincere, she admitted to herself, smile of lust as she sized him up like a piece of meat. Na suddenly felt very warm. His face turned bright red as he slumped against the wall. He'd fainted from embarrassment. Jiraiya hit the floor face first moments later, unable to cope with what he'd just heard. The TWWU men unconscious from sheer embarrassment. Both women laughed and hugged each other before they moved to wake him up. Shun took Naruto. Just as they were next to them, though, Shazan stopped. Sunyunid froze when she heard the inflection in her friend's voice. Sunyunid turned her head and looked at Shizune. I know we were just teasing him, but made slightly nervous. Just between us, I really do like Naruto. I do to Shizune. You know that. The look she saw in Shazan's eyes hit her like a fist and made her eyes big as saucers. Oh. Shizune, you mean you'd really like to? Shun blushed. Hi, Sunyunid-chan. Shazan interrupted. Naruto Isanade held up her hand to stop her. I know what you're going to say, but we'll discuss this tonight at the mansion after dinner. Okay, we have a lot to discuss already. This is just one more thing. You should have told me though, Shizune, you know we have no secrets from each other. Shazan bowed. Sorry. Now wake the knuckhead up. We have to finish this meeting and I need to tell Na about our other guest down at the hospital. Since he knows who his parents are, he'll have to be told everything. But there could be problems when I mention an old village law. I'll have to reinstate. Shizune's eyes opened wide. You mean? Hi, Shizune. Then there's the council. I'll have to tell them everything now. I'm not looking forward to the next couple days. I wonder if I could drink myself into a coma. And Shazan finally got Naruto and Jiraiya awake and focused again. Bar-chan Shizune, that was a mean prank. Na said as he glared at them. I didn't think you had it in you, Shazan. Na gave her a big foxy grin. Thank you, Naruto, Shazan said, smiled and gave Na a small bow. They smiled. Naruto was known throughout Konoha as the Hokage of pranks, though he'd never been called that and didn't know many of his adult friends called him that in private as a sign of respect. Almost every shinobi in the village had been pranked at least once and failed to catch him with evidence. They had to respect him for being able to pull anything on an experienced shinobi like Kurama and Anko. Though in Anko's case, she'd wanted to kill him. At least at first, she still acted mad about it, but inside she respected him for having the guts to prank her. She was almost as feared as Sununid because of her temper, even by the other Junin. Na finally told Sununid about the battle with Pain. She was amazed to hear about the jutsu he'd used, and especially how many different animals he'd summoned. He'd gotten around the contract and one clan summon rule. Pain had come close to beating Na for a while. Only Naruto's incredible healing rate had saved him. Na openly admitted he was impressed by how strong Pain was. But Naruto told them how in the end he had to use all 9 tails to overpower Pain and kill him in a way that warranted he'd never come back. Naruto finally told them about the giant statue with 4 of the 9-tailed demons held inside it and how he'd freed them. What made Zan and Shazan gasp in shock though was when he told them how the freed demons had actually given him a small bow of respect for freeing them and would repay the favor one day. Sununid knew from her research that despite everything, they had their own code of honor and generally didn't like to owe anything to a mortal. But her research had also shown her that they also were bound by some decree older than even they were and couldn't break their word or a contract, regardless of their feelings for who it was with. Sunad checked to be sure that was everything and was about to release her seal on the room when she suddenly froze in shock and turned to Na. Shazan, Jiraiya, and Na were surprised to say the least. Wait a second, Na. How do you get from Orochimaru's hideout to the hospital in Konoha and back so fast? She practically stared at him for a moment as he thought about it for a moment, then smiled at her. He started to open his mouth to answer, but never got it out as her face lit up. Naruto, you mastered the body flicker. Sununid practically screamed in his face excitedly before almost crushing his ribs with a hug. Once free, Na took a deep breath. Yeah, it took me about 3 months to figure it out and another month to get it down. Even with Kyuubi's chakra, I've never seen a jutsu so hard to learn. The raisin was easy compared to that. Turned to Jiraiya. You didn't tell him, did you? Na was suddenly confused. Tell me what, Na? I told you that was your father's signature jutsu. It's what earned him his nickname, the Yellow Flash. But what I didn't tell you is that the only reason you can do that is because he was your father. That jutsu can't be used by anyone else. Said seriously. Na looked at Jiraiya still confused. Just say it. Jirasunade said, waited a moment then sighed. Nah, that isn't a normal jutsu. Once you got the hang of it, you didn't need to use the hand signs anymore, did you? Na thought for a second, then shook his head. Because nah, it's basically a kikyenk from your father from the Namikaze clan. Naruto's eyes lit up. I'm from a clan like Hinata-chan and Sasuke. Nodded. Needless to say, the questions flooded out, and Sununid glared at Jiraiya for not telling him all this himself. Jiraiya saw her glare and knew he was going to get hurt very soon. Eventually got Na calm enough to listen. Na, I'll tell you everything later. Okay. Na pouted but nodded in defeat. I know you hate waiting, Na, and I'm sorry, but there's a lot more to this than you think. Plus, there are things I'll have to collect that belong to you. For now, remember that this is all an S-rank secret, so you can't tell anyone. Got it? Na nodded sadly. After I release this seal, you put your henge back and head home. Try to get some sleep. I also want to know everything you can do now because I have some things to do tomorrow that only you can. Help me with and the curse mark on Sasake as part of it. Sununid said and smirked. Na was confused by that. The expression he saw on her face made him very nervous for some reason. Sununid released her special jutsu. Then Naruto and Jiraiya left. Naruto headed to his apartment and Jiraiya to get a hotel room. A minute after they left, Shazan came back into the office with a new chair, broom, and dustpan. She quickly had the mess cleaned up, and Sunyunid at her desk again. 2 minutes after she'd gotten back into her paperwork, there was a knock on the door, and Shizune came in with a look on her face that made Sunyunid's eyebrows go up from curiosity. Okay, Shizune, what's going on? Shazan used every ounce of willpower she had to keep herself to hold in her laughter. Na just came back and told me while he was training he solved the paperwork problem. Shazan's giggled and almost lost her composure. He did? Ha. So tell me, Shizune, how the brats solve it? Said sarcastically. Shazan giggled again, then took several deep breaths to calm herself. Across the village, Naruto had just sat his things on the table when he heard Sunyunid's laughter echo throughout the village. He smiled. Shazan told her about using shadow clones to get the paperwork done faster. I wonder why nobody else thought of it before. He laughed for a few minutes, then removed his shoes and dirty clothes. He wanted to get a shower before he went to his favorite restaurant to get his favorite meal for lunch and see Ayami-chan and her father again. April 16th, 8:58 a.m. Na raced along the street by the wall of the Hokage estate. I really don't want to be late my first day back. How could I oversleep? Na saw the main gate close and skidded to a stop which kicked up a cloud of dust. Before he can even ring the bell, an ambuad behind the gate opened it. Sama is expecting you in the main hall. Do you know the way? Hi, Na replied with a nod, ran across the huge front yard to the front door and rung the bell. He looked at his watch and saw he had about 20 seconds left. Moments later, the door opened and Shazan smiled at him. You cut it close. Narrate, __. Na rubbed the back of his head and smiled at her. I overslept a little. Think I had too much ramen yesterday. Ayami-chan had to drag me out to close for the night. Narrate heard Shazan laugh, then several very female squeals and a lot of laughter from familiar voices. Shazan led him into the house to the first big room, the main hall. Na had only been there once before he left on his training mission with Jiraiya, but it was something he'd never forgotten. The main hall was basically just the living room, but it was bigger than many houses and very well furnished with marble and other expensive materials. He was about to say hello to all his friends, teachers, and sensei, but was cut off very abruptly. Na-ku-nen. A girl squealed before she glamped him and knocked to the floor, which caused a lot more laughter to echo through the room. Na looked up to see blue hair and white eyes that radiated happiness down into his very soul. Hello, Hinata-chan. I missed you, too, but would you mind getting off me, please? It's kind of embarrassing. Hinata blushed deeply, immediately got off her true love and pressed her index fingers together. Na saw that he knew now what her blushing and gesture meant and smiled. I missed that nervous habit of Hinata-chan's. Na thought as he got up, noticed that she was obviously embarrassed and still kind of shy. She didn't look at the floor, but right at him. You've grown, Hinata-chan. You look a lot stronger now, too. Hinata blushed deeper. Na stepped closer and whispered so only she could hear him. Thanks for the hug, Hinata-chan. And I love you, too. He then gave her a kiss on her left cheek, which faced away from the crowd with such speed that only Sunyunid and a few others caught. Hinata's eyes as big as saucers, raised her left hand, touched her cheek where he'd kissed her, turned a shade of red so bright it would make every rose in the history of the world wilt from to shame, and fainted dead away. Luckily, Narrate caught her and carried her to a couch where Sakura, Ino, Shikimaru, and Choji sat. They moved so he could lay her on it. Nobody saw the smirks on Kakashi, Oruruka, Kurana, and Anko, who all saw the kiss, but glanced quickly at each other knowingly. What did you say to her, Na? Sakura asked, slightly worried and upset. Na scratched the back of his head with both hands and gave a huge foxy grin. Oh, I just thanked her for the hug and said I missed her. It was basically true, but Sakura didn't need to know the truth that was between him and Hinata-chan. He went around the room, greeted all his friends. Everyone said how much he'd grown and how strong he'd gotten. Na didn't miss the well-hidden, to most anyway, looks of outright lust in the eyes of many of the girls there. And he'd swear he'd seen it just for a split second in a few of the women. Okay, everyone, now that the reunion is done, we have some important things to tell you. Glanced at Narrate and the awakening Hinata. So, if everyone will have a seat, I'll get started. During the reunion with all his friends, Naruto had an odd meeting with Ka and Akamaru, who was now large enough to ride on. Although friendly, he could tell Akamaru had reacted oddly to him. Does Akamaru know? Can he tell what happened? If Akamaru knows he hasn't alerted Ka like he knows I'm going to tell him. Naruto thought. Okay, before I tell you why you're here, I assume you all know the story of Caleb's attack on the village 15 years ago. All the kids nodded. The adults glared at Sununit silently, asking if she was going to tell them what they had known for 15 years. They saw the answer in her eyes. As we and the clan heads already know, it's not entirely true. You see, Kaebi wasn't killed. It was far too powerful. So, what the fourth Hokage did was use the only option left to him. He used a special jutsu to seal it inside a newborn baby. Said sadly, they all talked excitedly, but quietly among themselves. That baby's mother had just died giving birth to him. With a sadness I hope none of you ever have to experience, he sealed it into his own newborn son, Na. The room instantly became deathly quiet as Naruto saw all his friends' eyes suddenly focused on him. He tried to smile back, but was so nervous he could barely manage a small grin. Sakura was the first to speak, jumped to her feet from the couch where she was seated on Hinata's right side. Na is the son of the fourth Hokage. Na nodded weakly at her. He couldn't read her face at all. He wanted to say something to her and all his friends. At least he hoped they still were after the meeting was over, but couldn't. Sakura, despite also just learning that Naruto had the Kaebi sealed inside him all these years, that wasn't registering in her mind. However, even Ina Sakura was stunned into silence. Everyone in the room watched the pink-haired Kunoichi, expecting her to explode in anger at any second. But it didn't happen. In Sakura's mind, her entire history with Naruto flashed through her mind at a speed that amazed even her. How she'd treated him, every punch she'd ever given him. But what stuck out most was how they'd first met when he saved her from some bullies that were picking on her for her large forehead. And despite everything she'd ever done to him, he was always loyal and willing to protect her with his very life, as he had from Gar when he was changing into that sand demon. Even more so than even her beloved Sasuke had done. He'd been more interested in proving his strength against Gar than actually saving her. Sakura suddenly felt like dying as she realized how Naruto had felt about her all those years and all she did was abuse him. Sakura just sat quietly, leaned down, put her face in her hands and mumbled to herself as her eyes teared up. Hinata could make out most of what she said, though. I'm the dumbest, most worthless, __, in the world. All the years I wasted on that arrogant, cold-hearted, __, I could have had someone that really loved me and I destroyed it forever. Someday he'll be Hokage. He'll never forgive me. I don't deserve to be loved. Despite how Hinata felt about Na, she loved him with everything she had. Her heart went out to her friend. She knew how Sakura felt. She was all too familiar with that despair. With those feelings that now ripped Sakura's heart and soul into tiny pieces. Hinata knew that if something wasn't done soon, Sakura could withdraw so far into herself that nobody would be able to help her, not even Na. Sakura's head suddenly shot up when she felt arms wrap around her and softness press against her arm. She turned to see it was Hinata. Is that her? No. It can't be. Sakura thought her face next to Sakura's head. Hinata whispered in her ear so only Sakura could hear her. It's all right, Sakura-chan. Naruto forgave you. He knows I love him, but I'd share him with you. Hinata couldn't believe she just said it, but as strange as it was, she honestly meant it. Sakura couldn't believe what she just heard either. She hugged Hinata back then, separated. Thank you, Hinata-chan. Sakura took a closer but very quick look at Hinata. She wanted to confirm what she felt during the hug. I had to be mistaken. She has a nice body, but hers aren't any bigger than mine, are they? Sakura thought. Everyone assumed that was for the hug Hinata gave her, but a few of the adults that saw Sakura's eyes during the hug from Hinata had a very accurate feeling what the thank you was really for. Hinata's feelings for Na was the worst kept secret in Konoha, especially among the shinobi in the room. Except to Na until very recently, as they had been told by Sununit that morning before the kids arrived. Before there are a lot of questions, there's more. As you all know, Naruto got back yesterday from his almost 3-year training mission with Jiraiya. As you all now know, Orochimaru was part of a group called the Akatsuki. I know you've all heard it mentioned a few times over the last 3 years. Everyone nodded, then saw a smile creep slowly onto his face. Thanks to my favorite brat, our number one Nukkid, Orochimaru, and the Akatsuki are dead. Shazan and Jeria hadn't told anyone that yet. So when she said it, the whole room went silent. Then, as if on silent cue, every head but the 4 that already knew, turned and stared at Naruto with disbelief and shock. Everyone suddenly turned to look at Kakashi, who was leaning against the wall. They turned when they heard the sound of a small book hit the floor. He dropped it. Enko roared and suddenly laughed so hard she had to lean on Karina so she didn't fall on the floor. It was no secret how Enko felt about that little book he always read. So they knew how much she loved it that he dropped his precious itchy paradise book. The tension was broken as everyone in the room with the exception of Kakashi laughed so hard their faces were red. Kawashi just snorted, picked up his book, and put it away safely inside his vest. If his mask didn't hide his face, he'd have been a lot more embarrassed. Once everyone was calmed down, Sun Unit continued. Kakashi, I don't want to see that book again during this meeting. Got it. The reason Na was able to do this is Na, would you come up here please? Na nodded and jogged across the room tossade where everyone could see him better. During his training mission something unexpected happened. Everyone looked at him curiously, especially the other adults that hadn't been in during the meeting yesterday. Sunyunit and Shazan stepped back away from Naruto near Jeria. Na, go ahead, Sunyunit said. Na took a deep breath to calm his nerves a little when he looked at all his friends and sensei. It didn't relax him any. He was worried about how they'd react to his new appearance. He braced himself for the worst, called up all his courage, and with a simple hand sign dispelled his hench, and showed all the people he truly cared about most his new look. To say that everyone was shocked is a gross understatement. It'd be like saying had a decent punch. Na looked at everyone very nervously. I kind of fused with Kaobi. If you guys don't want to be my friends anymore, I understand. Na looked down at the floor. His 9 golden tails basically hung behind him. The sadness in his voice noticed by everyone. Na suddenly found himself in a crushing 4-way hug between Hinata, Sakura, which was a surprise. She hugged him so warmly, Kurana, and Anko. That really surprised everyone. Well, almost everyone. In the months between when Sade became Hokage and Naruto left with Jiraiya on his 3-year training mission, only a few people knew Naruto had hung around Sunyunit, Kurani, Enko, and a few others, during the late afternoon and early evenings when the Y weren't busy, and he'd gotten to know them pretty well as people, not just his friends, Sensei and the Hokage. He'd learned that although still rather scary, Enko had a similar personality to him. And she loved Dango as much as he loved ramen, but he also now knew that the female interrogator and former student of Orochimaru was a special Junin. And like Sasake had a curse mark on her neck that was basically sealed, but still acted up occasionally, like during the Chunin exams in the Forest of Death. Kurani, the mistress of Genjutsu, as she was sometimes called, was more reserved and motherly. Basically the opposite of her good friend Anko. Help, Na managed to squeak out. They released him. Not be your friend. You're gorgeous Naro. Anko blurted out. In a very rare occurrence, everyone looked at Anko, who bit her bottom lip and blushed lightly from embarrassment, something almost all of them had never seen from her or even thought her capable of being. Anko Kurini said elbowed her best friend in the side and gave her a keep those kind of feelings to yourself glare. Kurinai was really surprised. She knew Anko tended to talk and sometimes act without thinking, first being brash and impulsive was just who she was. Hinata and Sakura looked at Anko then each other and saw the same thought in the other's eyes. Does Anko? They dismissed that thought though and hoped they were wrong about her. They were girls. Anko was a beautiful but sometimes very scary woman. Are you kidding? Nah. I think you're cool. Hell, I wish I had a tail and pointy ears. Women love that stuff. Ka said. Akamaru barked. Akamaru agreed with me. Ka rubbed his large dog's head and smiled. Thanks, Ka. Na said, it's all troublesome if you ask me, but hating or being scared of you takes too much energy, so I'll stay your friend. A boy said lazily. Na smirked. 2 whole sentences. Thanks, Shikimaru. I think you look cool too, Na. A deep boy's voice said and crunched some chips. Thanks, Choji. Na said, maybe if you tied some ribbons on the ends. A girl said, Ino. I'm not going to tie ribbons on my tails. Na said annoyed. Ino giggled. Gotcha. I think you look cute with the ears and tails, so stop being stupid. Of course, we're still friends. Thanks, Ino. I'm glad your transformation went well, too. Na said and smiled. Ino looked at him a moment, confused, then noticed his eyes locked on her now ample chest. Ino blushed bright red, turned around, and walked away totally embarrassed. Sakura and a few others laughed at how cleverly Naruto had gotten her back for her ribbons comment. Sakura would hold that over Ino's head for years to come. In a friendly way, though they had become best friends again since Na left 3 years ago. The next few minutes went basically the same. They all were still his friends, which made him feel kind of stupid he'd even thought it. Once everyone had spoken to Na and assured him they were still his friends, but would just need time to adjust to his new appearance. Sununit then walked over to the coffee table where Naruto had sat down between a smiling Hinata and Sakura. Both had a hand behind him and giggled. Each had a different tale from her side. Sat a box in front of Naruto the size of a large duffel bag. Na looked at it in awe. It was made of a shiny black material with gold trim, hinges, and lock. On top was a swirl like he wore, but it seemed to be made of a solid orange crystal. What's this, Ba-chan? It's yours, Na. Your parents left it for you. I got it out of the vault here in the mansion where it's been stored since he was Hokage. It's the safest place in Konoha because of all the protective seals placed on the vault by each Hokage over the years. Naruto's eyes lit up with excitement. What's in it and how do I open it? I don't know what's in it, but I can tell you how to open it. Bite your thumb and smear a little blood on the center of the swirl, said without any hesitation. He bit his thumb until it bled a little and wiped some blood in the center of the crystal-like orange swirl on top. A moment later, the orange crystal swirl glowed brightly, and there was a popping sound and small puff of smoke. When it cleared a moment later, there was a simple lock on the side facing Naruto and a gold key sitting in the center of the swirl. Naruto picked it up and slipped it into the lock and turned it. The upper half opened by itself and revealed a shiny black metal key on a chain meant to go around his neck. He picked it up, put it on, and tucked the key under his shirt with Sununit's necklace. As great as the key was, what had everyone's attention was what else was in the box. Taking up about 2/3 of the length of it was 2 big scrolls underneath an even bigger scroll that got an odd hum from Jiraiya. On the right end were what looked like a dozen small scrolls. As Naruto found, to his and everyone else's disappointment, the 3 big scrolls were sealed. The small scrolls weren't sealed, though. The ends of the scroll holders were marked with an elemental symbol. Look at these, Ba-chan. Na picked several up in each hand. Fire, water, earth, wind, lightning. That's weird. What's this one stand for? He held it up for Tsunade to see. Can I borrow that for a moment, Na? Tsunade said. Na nodded and handed it to Sununit. Tsunade went to Jiraiya to discuss it with him privately and a minute later he laughed, a huge smile on his face. Returned and gave it back to him. I'll tell you what it means later, Na, she said with a smile. Na was curious but just nodded his okay. He knew he'd find out eventually. Although he hated waiting, it's a skill he had to learn during his training mission. Na set the scrolls on the table, scooped up the remaining 6 scrolls, and looked at the ends. They just have numbers 1 to 6. Wait, just 5. This one has something else on it. What's this mean, Ba-chan? Do you know? He handed her the scroll with the strange symbol on it. Her eyes got big and she almost yelled. It can't be. I thought it was destroyed. Everyone looked at in surprise. She opened it and looked at the apparently blank scroll, but she just smiled and rolled it back up, then set it standing on its end on the table. Everyone watched her flash through a series of hand signs to activate a medical jutsu that made her hands glow green. She touched the kanji engraved on the top end of the scroll. It glowed for a second, then there was a popping sound. Picked the scroll up, unrolled it again, smiled big, and showed everyone nearby that it was full of jutsu. Are those medical jutsu, sensei? Sakura asked excitedly. Sununit smiled and nodded. Na, can I borrow this scroll? It contains some ancient and some very rare, very powerful medical jutsu from your mother Kush's clan. Na gasped in shock. Mom was a Medan. Smiled a little bigger. Very few people knew it, but she was better than me. The Uzumaki clan was small compared to Hyuga and Uchiha, but one of the things they were known for was their medical jutsu. Unfortunately, they never shared any of their knowledge. Much of their knowledge was lost over the generations because of battles and their elders dying of old age without power. Assessing down their skills until Kusha left them to marry Manado. She only got a chance to teach me a few of them before we lost her, and she was the last of her clan by then. Not counting you, of course. Had's face saddened for a moment when she mentioned her old friend. Na nodded. What about this key? You know what it's for. Na pulled it out from under his shirt and held it up. That key, Na, is to your new house. Everyone's eyes got really big. Oh. It's Na tensed up. For my what? He yelled in shock. You know the founding clans of Konoha, right? Of course, Ba-chan. Everyone does. Na said, not really. There's one that was removed from public record about 15 years ago, the Namikaze clan. It's on the edge of town near what used to be the Uchiha clan compound. Na thought a moment. The place with the high stone walls and huge gate. Nobody goes near it. That place belongs to me. Naruto froze. He didn't even blink for almost 2 minutes. As Naruto faded back and he heard a familiar female voice. You probably fried his brain, Sansanade-sama. Another familiar female said, shut up, Ino pig. The first girl said, Narok, __, are you all right? A third girl said in a gentle voice, oh, yeah, I'm fine, Hinata-chan. And thanks for defending me, Sakura-chan. Na said. Sakura blushed, followed moments later by Ino, but hers was lighter and very brief. Na still saw it and smirked at Ino knowingly. Sorry, all that news at once kind of stunned me, I guess. Naruto's face filled with hope. Cut off the question she knew he's about to ask. Sorry, Na, but you can't go there. Not yet. Anyway, there's a few legal matters to handle first. Meantime, hand me one of those blank scrolls. Na shrugged and handed one of the 6 blank scrolls. Looked at it for a minute, then laid it on the table. She flashed through a series of hand signs at lightning speed, then held her hands just above the blank scroll for a minute, moving over it slowly, then stopped, rolled up the scroll, and put it back with the others. I thought so. What is it, Ba-chan? Na said excitedly. They aren't blank. They have special seals on them, probably only unlockable by you. That's about all I can say. Your father was a master of creating new seals, even better than Jiraiya. There's nothing I can do about those. If I'm right, those elemental scrolls should be usable right away. Thought a moment. Well, do a little test. Na, pick one of your friends. Na shrugged, thought a moment, looked around, and finally stopped on a very familiar face. Hinata-chan, he said happily, which made her blush slightly. Hinata, what's your elemental affinity? Said, it's Waterade-sama. Naruto, hand Hinata the water scroll. Now open it and tell me what you see. Said Hinata unrolled about a foot of it. It's blank-sama. Sunyuna didn't even flinch. Put some chakra into it. Hinata did as told and suddenly smiled. It has water jutsu on it. Sunyuna looked at Sakura. Sakura, your affinity is earth, right? Sakura nodded. Look at the scroll Hinata has and tell me the name of one of the jutsu on it. Sunyuna said. Sakura shrugged but did as told. Sama, I can't see any jutsu on it. Hinata, are you kidding with us? She's not kidding, Sakura. Sunyuna said and smirked. I had a feeling he'd do something tricky. He always did love doing things like this. Sakura, put your hand on the scroll and put some chakra into it like Hinata and tell me if you can read it. Watched Sakura do it then pout. You still can't read it, can you? Sakura shook her head. No. Sunyuna-sama, you know why? Sakura said. Sakura suddenly closed her eyes and slapped her large forehead. She felt stupid. I don't get it. Why can Hinata read it and not Sakura? Ino said. Sakura put her hand down and opened her eyes. Because I have an earth affinity and Hinata has a water affinity. Ino suddenly scrunched up her face in realization. And that's the water scroll. Ino said flatly. A collective. Oh. Filled the room as everyone suddenly caught on. Sunyuna continued. Nah. I think your father left those for your friends to learn. He'd want them to be strong enough to help you protect the village. Hinata, would you return that, please? Well, get back to them later. If I'm right, Jiraiya can help you with the 3 big scrolls later. But right now, there's something important I need you to do. Girls, would you get up, please? I need the couch for a minute. Thank you. Enko, come here and sit on the couch next to Na. Enko is confused by the odd request, but obeyed. Naro, you remember what you told me yesterday in our meeting? Sunyunad made sure Na is looking at her and glanced subtly at Enko's neck. Narat smiled big. Enko saw them both smile at her and started to get a little nervous, a feeling she's not used to. What are you two going to do to me? Enko said as she got a little defensive. Anko, close your eyes. We have a gift for you. Or rather, Naruto does. Said, if this is some sort of prank, Sunyunad all. Enko moved a hand toward her weapon pouch. Anko, please said calmly. Hi, Sunyunad-sama, but if this is a trick, I'll smash every bottle of sake in the house, and you'll spend the next week in a pink dress. Na nodded nervously before Anko closed her eyes. Pointed to the curse mark on Enko's neck and nodded to Na. Na cracked his knuckles, something he rarely did, but Anko is one of the few people that scare him. Everyone in the room moved closer to see, very curious. Na flashed through a long series of hand signs at lightning speed. Then his hands glowed with his purple chakra. This got a few surprised gasps, but everyone quickly realized why it's purple and not blue. Na crossed his left hand over his right hand and placed his hand on Anko's neck, covering the curse mark. Enko's scream filled the room and scared the hell out of almost everyone as she shook violently and continued to scream at the top of her lungs. About 30 seconds after he started, smoke starts to rise off his hands from underneath, obviously coming from Anko's neck. Na continued for another minute and a half. Anko screamed the entire time. The pain worse than any she's ever felt in her life. Finally, the smoke stopped. The look of intensity faded from Naruto's face, and he slumped back in the couch for a moment. Anko seemed to have passed out. It's gone. Kurani screamed as she pointed to Anko's now bare but slightly red neck. Everyone looked in shock. Sunyunad smiled proudly and put her hand on Naruto's shoulder. Are you okay, Narat, Na smiled. Yeah, I'm fine. It just takes a lot of concentration to do that, but I can do it 5 or 6 more times before I have to rest. Kami, that hurt. What the foo? Enko reached for her aching neck and remembered where she was. What did you do? Eom Na. Enko grabbed Naruto's shirt and jerked him close. Everyone in the room felt the killing intent as it filled the room like thick smoke. I need a hand mirror now. Kurani screamed, caught it from Ino a few seconds later. She grabbed Anko's shoulder and shook her. Anko, look at your neck. Look, Anko. Enko saw the intensity in her friend's eyes, released Narat, and took the mirror. Enko's eyes suddenly got big as saucers and she froze from shock for almost a minute. I don't believe it. Her head whipped back to Na. Na sat there still terrified. Anko was going to kill him. The entire room suddenly gasped loudly as Anko, the second scariest person in the entire village, smiled she never had her entire life, hugged Narat with such intense emotion it was almost. Then pulled back and smothered him with kisses whose intensity could be felt like a heavy weight on their chests. This went on for a full minute before Kurenai suddenly snapped out of it and pulled her back. Enko Midiashi, control yourself. Enko suddenly looked around the room at all the eyes, remembered where she was, what she just did, and with who. Enko blushed a deep red to rival Hinata. Oh, I'm sorry, Naru. She looked at Narat and stopped mid-word. His face was bright red, and he'd fainted from embarrassment. I'm so very sorry, Sunyunad. Sama, Hinata-chan, Sakura-chan, Kurai-chan, I was just so Enko just hung her head. She'd never been so embarrassed in her life, and she's not someone that's easily embarrassed by anything. Enko stood, bowed as low as she physically could, ran out of the room and down the far left hallway as tears poured down her cheeks. I'll go talk to her, Kurenai said before she followed Anko. A minute later, Kur and I stood next to Anko in the bathroom, her bare left arm across Anko's shoulders. It's okay, Anko. Really, I humiliated myself out there. I can never show my face again. Who could ever take me seriously after that? And what I did to Naro. Enko cried into her tissues again. And what about Hinata? Everyone knows she loves him after what I did. She'll hate me. I'll never get her respect back. Never. I crossed a sacred line. Enko, please, it's okay, you've had that curse mark basically your entire life. What did Naruto do for you? Kurini said. He removed it, Ko said as she forced down her emotions. And do you know why? Kurini brushed dark purple hair back with her fingers, looked at her best friend. The tears in her eyes dried up. Because Naruto loves me, I'm part of his family, and Naruto would do anything to help his family even if it meant his life. Come on, let's get you cleaned up and back out there. You've probably worried everyone sick. Kurini kissed Anko's cheek. Thanks, Kurini-chan. Anko blushed slightly. I feel better now. Would you fix me some of your special dango? Kurini gave Anko her "don't push your luck" glare, but when Anko pouted cutely, she sighed in defeat and smiled. Okay, after Tsunade is finished, I'll go to the kitchen and fix you some, but only because this is a special occasion. Anko's face lit up. You owe me, you crazy, you know what a pain that recipe is. Kurini said sternly. Anko smiled and nodded. Okay, how about I? Anko whispered the rest in Kurini's ear, which made Kurini's face turn very bright red. How about that, Kuri-chan? You can't hold it in forever. Anko Midarashi. Kurini screamed. Her face blushed a deep red. Anko smiled playfully and kissed Kurana on her cheek. Okay, Kurani, I'll behave for now. 3 minutes later, Anko re-entered the living room where everyone waited, Kurana behind her. As soon as they came in, Kurana locked eyes with 3 of them and nodded at Anko. Seconds later, Anko stopped, slightly nervous, as Naruto, Hinata, and Sakura stood in front of her. Turned toward the group and gave them a look that said, "Don't listen or else." About 2 minutes later, Anko, Naruto, Hinata, and Sakura hugged, then turned and walked back to the group, all friends again. The kids sat. Anko's face shifted to her most fear-inducing glare. If anyone says a word about what happened here, I promise you'll spend the rest of your life screaming in terror. Everyone swallowed nervously and nodded. Now with that settled, let's get back to the meeting. Sorry about the delays, Sununade-sama. Anko Saidsunade smirked. It's okay, Anko. Nobody minds. Anko and Kurini joined Naruto, Hinata, and Sakura on the couch. You remember a few months before Naruto left for his training mission with Jiraiya when we tried to get Sasuke back. I know 4 of you have some unpleasant memories of the sound nins that protected him. Well, one of them wasn't killed as reported. It's Tsunade said. Shikamaru closed his eyes and shook his head as he remembered her. But she's not free. She's been in a special section of the hospital in a coma. Because of the curse mark, one can't wake her up. That's where you come in, Naruto. I want you to remove it like you did for Anko. When she wakes up, it's going to be very rough on her. In an enemy village, no living relatives, not even her ties to Orochimaru, are there to fall back on. I want her to join us as a Konohakunoiki one. No, many of you aren't happy with this, but I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm telling you what's going to happen. If she reacts like Anko did, she'll be very grateful to have that curse mark gone and more willing to let us take her in and join our family. Also, as you're aware, Sasuke was returned to us alive, the details of which most of you don't need to know. He's awake and has been receiving counseling, but as expected with that curse mark, he's been his usual charming self. I know he wants to get better, but is being held back. Sununade said, which is why you need me to remove his curse mark, too. Nar interrupted. As big a pain in the butt as he is to me, I miss the temp. So, whenever you want me to, I'll be there. Maybe he'll even be nicer from now on. Nar said. Several people laughed. Correct, Nar. And thank you. This brings me to the final piece of business, you Nar, or more specifically the Namikaze clan. As you're the only surviving member, it's up to you to restore the clan. Sununade said. Nar looked at Sununade nervously. Tsunade, how am I going to do that by myself? Everyone looked at Nar and back to Sununade for the answer. I've been dreading this moment since yesterday. I spoke with the council and it was decided. Naruto, the Clan Restoration Act has been reinstated. This means that since you're 6 months from turning 16, by then you have to select at least 4 women, preferably kunoiki, around your age, to become wives, and by your 17th, you must have at least 1 wife old enough to raise the children. Sununade looked around the room, then pinched the bridge of her nose as she tried to stop the migraine. Naruto, Hinata, Sakura, and Ino fainted. The remaining females in the room, except Sunyunad, all blushed. Kurini stood over Naruto and shook him to wake him. Out of reflex, he raised his arms in self-defense, but they stopped halfway up. He'd grabbed Kurani's very large but well hidden through her vest. She froze, blushed furiously, and fainted on top of Na. Tsunade turned to the blushed Shizune. How can one brat turn my two strongest kunoiki into red-faced little girls that faint if a cute boy touches them? Shazan can tell from her friend's expression and voice she didn't think it'd be this bad. I don't know Sama, maybe it's a side effect of his merging with Kayabi. He has had a rather strong effect on every kunoiki around him. Even why Shizune said with quiet yet powerful voice that stopped Shizune mid-word. Don't you dare say it. I'm going to have a full checkup on him later to see exactly what happened to him. Regardless, this is going to be a very long day. Sunyunad pinched the bridge of her nose as the migraine intensified. Shazan, go help Anko wake him up and separate Kurana from Naruto carefully. Shazan nodded. She knew exactly what meant. Being one of the very few who saw what Naruto did to make Kurani faint. Shazan and Anko got Naruto and Kurani separated. Anko had to use a lot more force than she expected to pry Naruto's hands off Kurana's vest without revealing to everyone what had happened. Anko knew that Kurana would be emotionally devastated if it got out that a Chunin had grabbed her that way, even if it was an unconscious reflex and made her faint. In front of her fellow Junin, the Hokage, and the Chunin students, 3 of which are her team. Anko loved to tease Kurani, at least in private, about her representative with the Junin as an ice queen. But even Anko wouldn't go so far as to spread this around. She had no problems doing almost anything. But that was too cruel even for her in regards to the only person in the world she'd ever called her best friend, a woman she had no secrets from or kurenai from her. It took almost 10 minutes, but they got everyone awake and calmed down. Shino and Akamaru had to restrain Ka. However, he thought all of them fainting like little girls, especially the oh so powerful Naruto, funny as hell. Naruto was rather jumpy for a while, especially when Hinata and Sakura looked at him. He'd swear he could hear wedding bells ringing. True to form, Hinata almost fainted again the first few times she looked at Naruto after she woke up. Luckily, Sakura, or another of her friends, was always close by and would step in to rescue her before she'd actually faint, but her knees would buckle. That's all I needed to say since my workload is light today, Tsunade said. She hadn't mentioned she'd made 3 shadow clones to do her paperwork and handle any small things that came up at her office. How about we all go see Naruto's new house? Na looked at her in surprise. Ba-chan, you said I couldn't live there yet. You can't until you're signed as the legal resident, but you do own it, and as Hokage, I'm officially telling you to go check it out. Sunyunad said. Hi, Sunyunad. Na said he didn't call me Sama, but he didn't call me Ba-chan either. The brat is finally learning. Sunyunad thought Sama. Not to contradict you, but shouldn't a few of us go? Isn't it tradition to get a new home cleaned up and ready, then have a housewarming party to show it to friends and family? Lie, Shazan said. Party, Hei said excitedly, then got elbowed by Sakura. Down dog boy. Sakura snapped at him playfully. Most of the kids laughed or giggled briefly. Thought for a second, then sighed. You're right, Shizune. You, Hinata, Sakura, and Jiraiya, come with me. Everyone else is dismissed for the day. You can stay here if you like. We have anything you may want. And since this is the first time many of you have been here, I'm sure most of you would love to try some of the training grounds. We have 3 to choose from. Training grounds. Tenten squealed excitedly at the thought of testing her skills in a Hoage private training ground. Aruka Kakashi Kusanade said if it's okay Sama-kur and I interrupted, I'd like to use the kitchen to fix something for Anko and I, we haven't eaten yet. Nodded Dango cheered happily as she raised her fist and I sighed and shook her head in defeat. They headed off to the kitchen as the rest went with Aruka and Kakashi to the training grounds behind the mansion. Before he left the mansion, Naruto redid his hench, and Tsunade reminded those with her that everything they just learned is an S-rank secret, meaning a severe and very permanent punishment for breaking it. But she wanted to remind them that they're shinobi and should never forget that. Na wanted to bring his new case of scrolls, but Tsunade told him he could get it later and just had him seal it back since only Naruto could open it. Naruto was rather anxious to see his new home as expected. So Sun Unit agreed to let them leap there across the rooftops. Once out of the Hokage compound, the 5 of them jumped to the nearest roof and within minutes or across town. Na could have gone much faster, but Tsunade insisted he stay with them. Near the Namikaze compound, they dropped to the street and walked the 100 or so yards to the main gate, which Hinata, Sakura, and Naruto were very impressed by. This being their first good look at the 12-wood metal gate up close. At about chest level is a 2-foot black disc on which is an orange swirl that almost covered it edge to edge. As this swirled the crest of the Namikaze clan, Bar-chan, Na said, "Hi, it is Na, and if I remember right, it's how we GE. T in. Na. Remember how you opened that box back at my house? Hinata, Sakura, move back by me. Shazan and Jiraiya. I'm not exactly sure what will happen," Sun Unit said. Naruto stepped up to the gate, cut his left thumb on a hidden fang, then wiped the blood across his right palm. He took a deep breath and placed his right hand on the center of the swirl. The swirl glowed and smoke rose from under his palm. Then there's a loud sharp whoosh and pop. Na pulled his hand away as the disc turned upside. Not that you could tell it had split down the middle like it was 2 separate pieces on the gate. Then after what sounded like huge mechanical locks opening, it moved inward a few inches, signaling that it's now open. Na looked back at Sun Unit and Jiraiya, who nodded. He smiled and pushed the huge gates open. Na with Hinata and Sakura froze midstep in awe at the sheer size and beauty of the front of the Namikaze compound. Tsunade was a little in awe herself. She hadn't been there in almost 2 decades. Pushed them inside and closed the gates behind her. Place hasn't changed a bit. Jiraiya said as soon as she'd closed the gate. Sun Unit saw a disc identical to the one on the outside. Seal, spin, and lock. You thought of everything, Manado. Even a seal that reactivates when the gate is closed. Nade thought, smiled, then turned back to Naruto, Hinata and Sakura, who stared blankly at the house and huge front grounds of the compound. It's as impressive as I remember it, Sun Unit said to Jiraiya, then smirked. I always loved this place. He had the most beautiful servants in Konoha. Jiraiya. Naruto looked at the 2 Sonin. Their comments snapped him out of his trance. You've both been here before. Naruto almost yelled. Jiraiya nodded to Sun Unit and let her take over. A long time ago, Sun Unit sighed happily at the recalled memories. I hate to admit it as the Hokage anyway, but this place is even grander than the Hokage compound I live in. The 4 suddenly look at her, even more surprised if that is possible. Jiraiya smirked. I forgot. This is your first time here, Shazan. Join Naruto and the others. While we're here, don't think of me as the Hogue, just as your guide, except you, Jiraiya. Tsunade said. Jiraiya frowned at Sun Unit and very subtly mouthed, to her. Addy just smiled. She loved doing this to Jiraiya to put that pervert in his place. It always made her happy. Pointed out the features of the front grounds to them. There's a stone walkway from the main gate to the front door of the house. The grounds are 2 half-acre lots separated by the walkway. To their left were dozens of various sized flower and rose gardens, a dozen benches, and 2 large man-made ponds, each fed by a small waterfall. And near the house was a huge stone fountain, all connected by more flat stone walkways. Hinata sighed several times contentedly. She wanted to explore them, but was told she could do that later. They knew she loved gardening. She'd taken it up again in the last 3 years. Before that, the last time had been as a little girl with her mother in the Hyuga private gardens. They were Hinata's earliest memories and her most precious, as they're also of her mother laughing happily as she tried to be a big girl and garden-like. Her mother did and got really dirty. To their right is an open field for outdoor parties, light sparring, things like that. It ended to the far right at a forest that covered an acre of the front corner and side of the compound. Kiba and Shino would love that, Naruto said, knowing his friends very well. Sakura and Hinata nodded. Then Hinata got confused. Sama, if no one had been here in 20 years, why aren't the GR and flowers overgrown? Hinata said. Tsunade laughed. I wish I knew Hinata. Hokage compound. Kakashi is up in a large tree at the edge of one of the training grounds, hidden from view, quietly reading his favorite little orange book. In the field nearby, Ka and Akamaru roof-housed with 6 of Kakashi's nin dogs Ka had asked him to summon. Rock Lee and Neji sparred on top a series of 10-foot metal poles buried in the ground. Shikamaru and Choji laid under a shade tree and watched the clouds while a nearby Shino seemed to have a silent conversation with some insect residents of the tree they were under. Ino and Tenten perfected their aim with the moving targets at the far side of the 1-acre training field. Tenten's squeals of joy while she used the new highly elusive targets could be heard by all, which told everyone that the Young weapons mistress was very happy. Aruka was leaned against a tree near Shikimaru, Choji, and Shino. He watched them all enjoy themselves and smiled. Namikaze compound. Over the next 2 hours, they had a fairly quick but informative tour of the entire house and the remaining grounds. Now, back in the main hall of the house, Sununid planned out the chores. Na create 50 shadow clones and sent them with Hinata to clean up the front grounds and gardens. Sakura and 50 Naruto clones took the left side of the house, which surprisingly was only upstairs, while Shazan and 50 Naruto clones took the right. Sununid took Jiraiya and the original Naruto to the grounds behind the house, where Naruto made 500 clones, and then they started cleaning up the various sections of the grounds. Worked everyone hard until 5 o'clock, by which time everyone was tired and hungry, especially Na. Happy that the bulk of the work was done. It left only the details and food for the party. Sununid led the weary group back to the Hokage compound where everyone sat at the huge dinner table and chatted about the exciting day. It was fairly one-sided in respect to what the Namikaze compound looked like, as they couldn't tell them anything. But that was okay because everyone that stayed behind had more than enough to talk about during the meal and for an hour afterwards. After the meal, Sununid had been informed by an envu that several missions had come in. Nothing big. 2 C-rank missions that had take teammate and team guy a couple days to complete. Not to mention the help Naruto had to give Sununid at the hospital with 2 special patients, one of which was SA's. So, the party was set for 10 o'clock the following Saturday morning. At 9 the next morning, as instructed, Naruto met Tsunade at the hospital. So, what will happen to Sasaki after I remove the curse? Mark, I know what he did was wrong, but it wasn't totally his fault. That curse mark made him act that way. Sununid put her hand on his shoulder as they walked toward his room. I know Na since he's the last of his clan that will help him. But because of everything he's done, I don't think he'll be given the same chance to restore his clan like you. At least until he proves his loyalty to Konoha again. What if he doesn't prove his loyalty? Na said nervously. Stopped as did Naruto. A second later, Sununid hung her head. Hell be executed, she said with a lot of sadness in her voice. I don't like it either, Na, but as Hokage, I must protect the village at any cost. You know that. Na nodded sadly and started to walk again. He stood by the window in his classic pose and looked out at nothing when he heard a familiar voice. You're looking a lot better than you did the last time I saw you, Sasaki trademark. Sasaki spun around to face the person talking. What's that Baka doing here? It's good to see you too, Sasuke. Na said. Sasaki snorted and ignored him. Sununid giggled inside but didn't show it. He's here because he can remove your curse mark. Sasaki lost his almost legendary in Konoha anyway. Composure momentarily. A you can't be serious look on his face for just a second. Sasaki crossed his arms over his chest and turned his back to both of them. Sununid walked over to him by the window and quietly talked to him. Na could listen in, but decided not to. Sununid might not want him to know what she said. After about 2 minutes, Sasuke suddenly tensed up and looked at Na, disbelief on his face. She told him about Itachi. Na thought. After a full minute of fierce glaring, he turned back tossed and relaxed a little. After a few more minutes, Sununid returned to Naruto's side. Na stood there for 5 very long, silent minutes before he sighed sadly, and turned to leave. I'll think about it, Dobby. Sasaki said. Na stopped, suddenly smiled like he'd gotten free ramen, then left the room, and closed the door bay. In him. Naruto smiled because of the very subtle inflection of respect in Sasuke's voice when he called him Adobe. When he entered the room, he saw her on the bed unconscious. Na froze in his tracks. It had been over 3 years since he saw her last. The outline of her body under the thin blanket was unmistakable. That's to Yuya, Na yelled in shock when he saw her healthy, now 18-year-old body, her now huge, poorly hidden by the thin hospital blanket. It took me 3 weeks to heal her Na, but she did suffer a severe head trauma. Even though I healed the damage, she never woke up from the coma. Part of it is because of the curse mark, but I think that the main reason is that she's afraid to wake up because she thinks if she does, she'll be killed. I've read her file. She's never had a real friend. Nah. The only person that was ever even remotely kind to her was Orochimaru, and you know how he treats people, said sadly. Naruto's fists clenched tightly. He's lucky he's already dead. Na mumbled, his voice filled with rage. Put her hands gently on his shoulders. Nah. Sasaki has a choice on his future. She doesn't. So, I have to make it for her until she can decide what she wants to do. Nah. I know she tried to kill you guys and probably would have killed Shikamaru if Tamari hadn't shown up, but as a favor to me, please help her. Hugged him. Naruto lightly struggled for a minute, then totally relaxed in her arms. His heart went out to Tuya because he understood the kind of life she's had. Okay, Sununid, I'll help her. Sununid's smile went ear to ear for a moment, but she pulled it back when she released the hug. Thank you, Nah. If anyone can help her, it's you. She pulled up his headband and kissed his forehead like she did after they had first met, and she agreed to become Hokage. Closed the door and used a sealing jutsu to soundproof the room because she knew from when he removed Ankos that the girl will very likely scream even if she doesn't wake up right away, and she doesn't want a lot of nurses and ambu rushing in when she does. The poor girl will be stressed enough she doesn't need to wake up to thought. Na walked up to her bed and looked at her as she laid there helpless. She sure doesn't look like the same foul-mouthed, that wanted to kill us 3.5 years ago. Oh, Na thought. He gently turned her head so he can see the curse mark on the left side of her neck. Some anger welled up in him for how Orochimaru treated people. The chance at happiness he denied her. It made his blood boil. Nah. Calm down. We don't need every shinobi in the village feeling your chakra and thinking something is wrong. Sununid said, sorry. Na quickly calmed down and got focused. He flashed through the long series of hand signs he needed to activate this jutsu. Then crossed his left over his right, placed his right hand completely over the curse mark onto Yuya's neck and pumped huge amounts of chakra into the seal to destroy it. After 30 seconds, smoke started to rise from under his hand from her neck. She tossed in her bed slowly at first, but soon the pain showed on her face and Tsunade moved to hold Tuya down. It's almost gone. Hers is stronger than Anko's was. Naruto said, unwavering determination on his face. At 1 minute 58 seconds, Tuya's eyes snapped open and she let out a scream that if it wasn't for the sound seal on the room, would have literally blown out the windows and very likely shattered several others as well. Her whole body stiff, every muscle locked in searing agony, she holds the scream for another minute before she collapsed unconscious on the bed. The seal removed, Na covered his ears in an attempt to soothe them. Nade pulled his hands away and applied her healing chakra to his ears, hers protected by a special jutsu. And within a minute, the ringing is gone and his hearing is normal. Naruto looked at Sununid. I've never heard anyone scream like that. Not even Sakura. That time, I accidentally touched her. Tsunade smirked, her eyebrows raised slightly. She knew what word he started to say. Ah. Never mind. Does she have a kekken for sound? Na said curiously. Nothing in her file about it. I'd say that was from 3 years of build-up chakra and years of playing her flute for hours on end. From what I read, it seemed like the only thing that ever made her happy. It built up her lungs. Like training. Should we wait here for her to wake up? Na said, you have a seat there. I'll check her over. Did a series of hand signs and activated a diastic jutsu. She placed her hands by Tuya's head and slowly worked her way down, intensely scanning every inch of the girl from her nervous system to her chakra. Though she made a mental note to have Hinata check her chakra coils. A few minutes later, Sununid is finished and dispelled the sound seal. I'll be right back, Nah. She left the room and closed the door behind her. I should have her teach me a couple medical jutsu. Those can come in handy. Na thought, what the happened to me? Tuya said, only half awake. Na turned back toward Tuya suddenly and smiled. You're awake. Tuya jumped surprised to hear an unfamiliar voice. She rubbed her eyes and struggled to focus them on the source of the male voice. It's too bright in here. Turn off the lights. You, Na jumped out of his seat, shut off the lights, then crossed the room and drew the shades. Is that better to Yuya? Thanks. Guess you aren't a total, underscore underscore. Tuya took another minute to get her eyes focused enough to see clearly. Some detail was still a little blurry, but good enough for her to make out faces clearly. She looked around and saw orange clothes and blonde hair. Who the are you and how do you know my name? Tuya said angrily, reaches for her flute but didn't find it or her weapons pouch. Where's my stuff? And where's my team? Damn it. Tell me now or you're dead. Tuya is terrified inside but wasn't going to show it. She didn't know where she is or who the blonde kid was. She'd learned the hard way what happened to big girls that woke up in a strange place with strange men. When she didn't get an answer fast enough, she tensed up. Okay, you asked for it. She clenches her fists and pumped all the chakra she felt she had into her curse mark to change directly into her scon stage form and got visibly scared when nothing happened. I can't feel it. What happened? What did you do to me? She rolled off the bed away from him onto the floor, scooted back into the corner. She brought her knees up to her chest and covered her head with her arms in sheer terror. Dawn, T hurt me, please. I'll do anything you want. Just please don't hurt me. Tuya sobbed in fear. She was absolutely terrified she was going to get hurt, or probably even worse. She'd never been so scared in her life, and Na could feel the terror radiating from her like heat from a huge fire. Na moved around to the other side of the bed about 5 feet from Tuya and got down on his knees. In his most caring, loving voice, he tried to calm her down. Tuya, I'm Naruto Namikaze. This is a hospital in Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. Tuya raised her head enough to look at him. She knew the sound of an uncaring voice, but all she heard in his voice was kindness. I'm sorry if I scared you. I didn't mean to. Your teammates are dead to Yuya. I'm sorry, Na said gently. Tuya sobbed. They weren't really close, but they were the closest thing she had to friends and a family. I don't know any other way to tell you this except directly. You've been in a coma for over 3 years. Na said to Yuya, looked at him intently, hoping, praying he lied to her. But she can hear the sincerity and sadness in his voice. No, it can't be true. The pain in her neck finally registered in her mind. Her left hand went to her neck where her curse mark was. It's gone to Yuya. That's why you couldn't change. Na said gently. Her eyes opened wide and she looked at him like he had 2 heads. That's impossible. Nobody can do that. If you let me help you up, I'll show you. Na moved closer and held out his hand. Please, to Yuya, you can trust me. Deep in her mind, instincts told her, don't trust him. It's a trick, but something in her heart, something she's never felt before, forced its way to the surface and overpowered her usual caution about trusting strangers. Something about him made her feel safe. She couldn't explain it because it's a feeling she's never had before, but she liked it. He smiled warmly when she cautiously reached up and took his hand. It's so warm, she thought. He helped her up. She's a little shaky because she's not used to standing yet. Naruto held her steady, walked her into the bathroom, and turned on the light. It hurt her eyes for a moment, but after a few minutes, she adjusted, but hadn't looked at herself in the mirror yet. Are you ready? Na asked her warmly. She nodded, then took a deep breath and slowly looked in the mirror. She's a little shocked by her appearance, but quickly remembered she'd been in a coma for 3 years, and her skin is rather pale, not the beautiful tan she used to have. My hair is a mess, she said. A small smile curled the corners of her mouth. You look fine to me, Naruto said and smiled. She turned to her right and faced him, a tiny spark of her old self igniting. Compared to the bush on your head, mine looks great. She let out a light giggle of amusement. Na smiled. You're right. She started to turn back toward the mirror and saw the pink spot on her neck where the curse mark used to be. Just outside the door to Tuya's room, Sunsade had been listening to them with a smile. That's it, Naruto. Show her that big heart you have that makes us all love you. Sunyun thought. Suddenly, she heard a crash of things hitting the floor and sounds of struggling. Without even thinking, she ripped the door right off the hinges, ran into the room, but saw nothing. She darted to the bathroom door where the only light in the room is coming from, and stopped dead in her tracks at what she saw. She stared, unable to hold back her emotions as she watched Na, though only 15, is without a doubt the most powerful shinobi she's ever met in her life. And he was held against a bathroom wall by an 18-year-old girl who currently has barely enough strength to stand on her own. She's stuck. her hospital gown on the floor behind her. Her huge squashed out the sides as she pressed herself tight against him as she laid a kiss on his lips filled with raw passion. Sunsaid could swear she felt hitting her like chakra. Na saws in the bathroom doorway with an ear-to-ear smile. The look in his eyes begged for her to rescue him. She stood there for just over a minute before Tuya broke the kiss and fell backwards from exhaustion. Sunyunid Kaha carried her back to the bed, laid her down, and covered her with the blanket. She smirked at the huge smile on Tuya's face. Sunyunid strolled casually back into the bathroom and saw Na redder than she'd ever seen him in all the time she's known him, and he was still in the same posity. On he was in when Tuya had kissed him, his hands in front of his chest, palms out, which told exactly where his hands were. She stepped in and picked up the hospital gown. Is there something you want to tell me? Narsanadi said in a very playful, mischievous voice that makes Na squirm. I showed her the curse mark was gone when she dropped her and they were so and she, my hands touched, kissed me. Naruto's eyes rolled up in his head and he fainted. Luckily, Sunyunid caught him and sat him in the chair by the bed. I think you found another one, Na. I just hope you make your move on Hinata or Hayu before Tuya does. That girl is definitely not shy. Sunyunid said quietly to herself. What happened here? Sunyunid-sama. A woman Saitsune turned to see a shocked nurse in the doorway. The door on the floor behind her. It's nothing, just a little accident. I'll have the door replaced within the hour. 6:38 p.m. After finishing his 10th bowl of ramen, Naruto patted his happy belly. Hospital ramen is pretty good. So, how's Sasake doing now that I removed his curse mark, Bar-chan? Well, if he was anyone else, I'd have him under and guard and strapped to his bed. But for Sasake, he's doing very well. He's still mad that despite all his training, the power from the curse mark, and even mastering his Mangekyou sharing, you're still stronger than him. And you killed Orochimaru, the Akatsuki, not to mention Itachi. He still wants to fight you, Na. Na looked down at the table, depressed. He doesn't want to kill you though, Sunyunid said with a smirk. Naruto's head snapped up, surprise on his face. He won't admit it to anyone except maybe to you, but I think he respects you now. At least a little. Honestly, Na smiled. Should I go talk to him? I think you should wait a couple days. Let him think everything over. When he's ready, he'll tell us. Smirked. I have a message from Tuya. She keeps asking when she can see her Naruto-kun again. The way Tsunade said Naruto-kun in a syrupy sweet voice made Naruto shudder. Upon hearing the statement he knew was a direct quote. Na froze instantly. His face turned red and sweat started down his face. Of course found this hilarious but held it in. Is something wrong? Naranade smirked. She loved to torture him like this. Her payback for his barn nickname. I'm fine and I'm glad Tuya's fine, but I have to go. I'll see you later. Bye. Then he was gone in a flash of yellow light. Quickly glanced around. She hadn't expected him to actually use that here in the hospital cafeteria, but she got lucky. Nobody saw him. That was close. I'll have to talk to him about that. And I better be careful where I tease him and how much. I better make a quick check on a couple patients, drop by the tower and check on Shizune, then head back to the house. This has been a long day. I have to hand it to Na. That was a brilliant idea using shadow clones to help with all the paperwork. Hell, make a great Hokage someday. Thought happily. The next week went by pretty fast for Naruto. Well, not all of it. There were several occasions when time seemed to slow down to a crawl for him. The first time was that Monday. Never someone to waste time. Sasake had insisted on talking to Na alone about what had happened. Na had begged Sunyunid to let him tell Sasake the whole truth. As he had his other friends, it was the only way to get Sasake to trust him. Naruto had insisted to her. Adi finally agreed after almost 10 minutes of grubbling. She was going to let him anyway. She just wanted him to squirm a little first. It was mean, but Tsunade just couldn't resist sometimes. He was like her little brother, and what big sister doesn't like? Torturing her little brother occasionally. She did, however, tell Sasake that what he was about to be told was an S-rank secret. And if he betrayed the village again, or specifically Naruto, she would personally hunt him down and kill him. Sasake didn't scare easily, but the killing intent he felt from her when she told him the last part, dwarfed anything he'd felt from anyone in his life. He got the message very clearly. When she wanted to be, she was more terrifying than all his current bad memories and nightmares combined. He saw Na flinch when he felt it. If Na was afraid of her when she was mad and he'd killed Itachi or Maru in pain, then he had no chance at all. Sasaki had his private talk with Naruto, and most of it was shocking. Sasaki listened intently as Naruto told him about the fight with Orochimaru. He was glad the snake man was dead. He only went to him for power anyway, and even that had failed to get him what he wanted. The battle with Pain was just as interesting, but Naruto's battle with his brother Itachi was by far the most interesting to Sasaki. He was visibly upset Na had killed Itachi, not him, and he told Na exactly how he felt, but he was still glad his clan had been avenged. Avanth hadn't been the one to do it. Part of him wished Itachi had come back so he'd have some family again. But that didn't last long. His older brother, Itachi, the one he respected and loved when he was little, had died a long time ago, as far as he was concerned. Sasaki wasn't really very surprised to learn that Na had Kyuubi sealed inside him. It explained a lot of things he always wondered about. What had really shocked him was finding out who Naruto's parents were. The stoic expression he was known for dropped off for almost 2 minutes at hearing that, which got a laugh from Na at breaking his mask, something he'd been trying to do since they'd first met. But even that news palled in comparison when he found out what had happened during the 3-year training mission. When Naruto dropped his hen, he was the sole witness to something so rare most didn't think it possible. Sasaki Uchiha fainted. He wasn't out long, but when he woke, he made Na promise on everything he was, that he'd never tell anyone what had happened, not even Sununid, even if it cost his life. Na agreed, but on the condition he come to his housewarming party that coming Saturday, and for once take that sick out of his butt and be a regular person and have a good time. Though a little upset for a minute, he knew Naruto well. If he didn't agree, Naruto would tell everyone in the village he'd fainted. That was something he couldn't allow. His reputation, not to mention his image, would be destroyed. Plus, there was the added thought that hearing he'd fainted would make his fangirls that he knew were still out there want him even more. That thought sent a shiver down his back. He agreed to try, but no promises. It wasn't much, but Na knew he'd started forging a new friendship with Sasaki and hopefully expanded his family by one more person. It would take time, but Naruto could wait for Sasuke to come around to his way of thinking about things. The worst part of the week and toughest moment of his life, no comparison, was his first couple meetings with Tuya. Lucky for Naruto, Sununid was there with him. But to say that she was grateful he freed her from Orochimaru and that curse mark was the understatement of the century. As he'd found out that day when Tuya wanted to do or say something, she did it without regard to where she was or who was around. And unlike Hinata, as he discovered the hard way, much to his extreme embarrassment, she wasn't shy. Naruto doubted she even knew what the word meant. When he'd first walked into her hospital room, she'd been sitting on the side of her bed, waiting for him like a big red puppy. She immediately dropped her hospital gown, the top half. Anyway, the waist was securely tied once again, revealing her huge round, but Tsunade had stopped her before she could rush him for what would be a very hug. At least it would be if Naruto had stayed awake. A few seconds after seeing her, which were about the size of her head, he'd fainted from embarrassment, his face a deep red. After Ratida pulled her gown back up, she helped sit him in the chair by the bed. Sununid had a woman-to-woman talk with her. Sununid briefly ran through the clan issue and wasn't surprised in the least by the busty redhead's reaction. She'd happily marry Naruto and bear his children. Adi made her promise to slow down and let Naruto come to her. This was a new area for him. Unlike her, his experience was limited to hugs and the occasional kiss. Also told her there were some very important and secret things about Naruto that she'd find out later. Then told Tuya about Hinata's lifelong not-so-secret crush on Naruto and Sakura's new realization about her feeling for the rather naive blonde knucklehead. Tuya told Sununid she hated being second to any woman, especially when love was involved, which she saw worried. But for Naruto, she'd back off and stop coming on so strong, as Naruto obviously wasn't ready for her yet. If I have to share him with a few other girls, I will. And besides, the more the merrier, Tuya said with a devilish grin. You're pretty hot yourself, Sununid-chan. Sunsunade's eyes got big as saucers, and her jaw dropped. And I do love a woman who can match her, especially surpass me. Tuya said playfully as she ran her right index finger down the 7 of bare cleavages was showing. A suddenly red-faced Said stood up, adjusted her worn green jacket to cover more cleavage than usual, and looked down at a grinning Tuya. It took everything had to push down her blush and keep from fainting. Then she woke Naruto and left. Tsunade went straight to the ladies' room where she splashed cold water on her face before she lost her composure completely. It took at her willpower to stop herself. She almost shoved her hands inside her clothes. Tuya wasn't as direct in the next meeting, but she still made him nervous. Naruto was surprised to see that Sununit seemed to get a little nervous around Tuya a few times, and he'd swear he saw her cheeks get a little pink, but couldn't figure out why. He got Tuya to stop swearing, though it took a couple days for her to learn to change a habit she developed growing up on the street. She'd slip occasionally, but overall, Naruto was happy with how hard she tried to change for him. She'd stopped flashing her chest to him and kissing him without warning, but she'd still press against him whenever she had an opportunity. She'd been told about Orochimaru and the Akatsuki and had promised not to mention it to anyone that didn't already know, but she wasn't told everything at once. 2 days after that, when they were sure about her, she learned the rest. She didn't react quite like they expected. With what she'd been through with her former team and the curse marks, she wasn't fazed at all. In fact, she thought he was even better looking than before. She especially liked his ears. Saturday 9:50 a.m. Everything ready, Sununade said. Sakura, Hinata and Na scanned everything with expert eyes, then smiled and nodded Tosade. Good. Okay, Na, let's go greet your guests. Na smiled ear to ear. His tails waved excitedly behind him. Had to smile at how happy he was and how good he looked in his new clothes. She smiled as she recalled how with help from Hinata, Sakura, and Ino, they'd almost dragged him to a local clothing store called the Iron Kimono. It was one of the few places in town that hadn't refused service to or overcharged Na, though he'd never actually gone inside the store. If he had, he'd have discovered that she didn't hate him like most adults did just because he had Kyuubi sealed inside him. It was owned by a former Jun Kunoichi named Hotaru and Firefly. She'd retired about 20 years ago after she lost her entire team on a mission. Her clothing store specialized in casual and formal clothes for shinobi that could double as battle gear if needed. The orange-haired woman, although in her late 30s, was still very attractive with the firm body you'd expect an experienced kunoichi to have, and a very ample chest that jiggled when she moved. She'd help them find new clothes for the nervous blonde-haired shinobi. She'd seen him around quite often and knew about what a good person he was from a Yame who she talked with twice a week at Ichiraku Ramen during her away lunch break, as well as Anko and Karana who visited her shop once a week if in the village to check out the new clothes and make an occasional perk. Haze, but they mainly went there to catch up on the special Konoi-only gossip. Although one of Anko and Kurinai's few vices, it was also a main source for all the information gathering Anko did for Sununit as a permanent weekly C-rank mission, a fact she'd never admit. It's what paid for Anko's frequent feasts at her favorite dango stand and occasional ramen feast with Naruto at his favorite stand. One of the new outfits they chose, with a little resistance from Naruto, who didn't see anything wrong with his orange jumpsuit, finally decided he liked the formal outfit. Once he had it on, black long sleeve shirt with orange trim and a large orange swirl on the back. He'd insisted on keeping some orange in his new clothes and absolutely refused to budge on the issue, even under threats, non-fatal of course, that scared him to his core. Loose black pants, also trimmed in orange, and a black jacket with orange flame trim and a large orange swirl on the back and black shinobi boots that work in any situation. He'd gotten a dozen similar outfits, some casual in different color variations, as well as 4 trench coats, 2 black, 2 height with orange flame trim. Na wanted to run to the gate to let everyone in, but Tsunade insisted he walk with them. Since some of Naruto's friends and their parents are always shinobi, the few of them on the council already knew of Naruto's new look. Those that weren't, like Sakura Mother, for example, Sununit had a long private chat with. At first, Sununit was agitated that the woman was uncomfortable with Na. She'd known he had the Kyuubi sealed in him. She still kind of thought of him as a possible threat to the village. When Tsunade told her the full truth about who his father was and the sacrifice he'd made with his own son, she burst into uncontrollable tears and collapsed in utter shame. If she could have willed herself to death, she would have. She came around eventually and was told by Sununit very bluntly and quite graphically what would happen to her if she spoke of this or did anything against Na. The pink-haired woman bowed to Sununit as low as she was physically able and gave her most solemn vow and that she'd do anything to make it up to Na. She judged him so harshly and never got to know him. When Sakura had returned home that night, she'd been greeted with a big hug from her mother, followed by a long mother-daughter chat that ended with a very happy Sakura, who cried and hugged her mother tightly. The only reasons had told her was because Na wanted his friends' families to join the party. He didn't want any secrets from his friends or their family. That was one of the things loved the knucklehead for, his heart. Sununid's toughest challenge had been Hinata's father, Hiashi, head of the main branch of the Hyuga clan and council member. He knew his daughter, Hinata, loved Naruto. But even after he'd learned the whole truth with the rest of the council, and had apologized for his previous opinion of uncommon TS about Naruto, he seemed to not be totally convinced. When Hinata told him about the housewarming party and his invitation, he'd insisted on a meeting with Naruto and Hinata to discuss the possible future. Nade had come along. Hiashi had told her Naruto was in no danger, but she'd insisted and as Hokage he couldn't refuse her. He'd been a little surprised when he finally saw Naruto's true appearance, but had basically maintained his composure. He talked rather extensively to Na and occasionally asked for Hinata's opinion and ended by very bluntly asking if he intended to take Hinata as one of his wives. Both had blushed, but what had caught everyone OFFG guard was when Hinata stepped forward. "Hi, father," Hinata said strongly and actually stood up to him. Her body language clearly told everyone she would fight him if he tried to separate them and deny her the love of her life. Hi gave Hinata a glare she knew all too well. It normally sent her to the floor cowering. This time she didn't even flinch. After a very long 10 seconds, the tension broke when Hiashi smiled at her. He was proud of her. She'd finally stood up to him. He'd never seen such strength from her before. Then he gave his approval for her to marry him. "I'm going to be Hinata Namikaze." Hinata turned to Na, obviously about to say something. They never found out what it was. The full impact of the situation had finally hit Na, and it had shut his mind down. At that moment, if you'd asked him, Na couldn't have told you what his name was. Naruto's face was paler than Hinata's eyes, and they'd all swear that even his hair seemed to have gotten pale. "I'm going to be married," Na said almost mechanically before he fainted. Addy reminded a very excited Hinata of something. "He hasn't actually asked you yet, so until he does, keep this to yourself and let Naruto do this his way." Hinata nodded and calmed herself. They got to the main gate just in time. Na opened the gates like any other door. The blood seal was only for the special seal used to protect the compound in extreme situations like if the village is attacked. The normal security seals were enough to stop most threats, even Heil Junin. His henge activated, Na opened the gates. "Hello, welcome to the Namikaze compound," Na said with a huge smile, stepped aside and waved everyone in proudly. He greeted everyone as they entered. Most carried at least one nicely wrapped box with his name on it and all dressed in formal but not too much attire. He told everyone that there would be plenty of fun activities and to bring a more casual change of clothes. An odd request, but everyone did as asked. They figured there'd most likely be some sparring or something similar. Everyone that knew him well was all too aware of how Naruto felt about stuffy formal parties and meetings. Had Shazan, Hinata, and Sakura knew what was coming. They'd helped Naruto set it up. Once everyone was inside, they stared in awe at the huge 2-story house and front grounds. He closed the gate, which promptly resealed. Hiashi was impressed by that. He'd have to ask Na about that later. He could use it at the Hyuga compound. Na stepped back in front of the group with Sununid and Shazan. Sakura and Hinata joined their families. "Now that everyone is inside and the gate is closed, I don't need this anymore." With a quick hand sign and puff of smoke, Naruto dispelled his henge. He stood there in his true form and new clothes. He'd practiced a special henge just for that occasion. Everyone was surprised when the smoke cleared, not just for his new fox features, but because of his new clothes. Nobody had mentioned the shopping trip. Naruto wanted to surprise everyone. The initial shock wore off quickly, and they were soon complimenting him on his new clothes. And the few that hadn't seen it yet liked his new fox-like appearance, but admitted it had taken them a while to get used to it. By the time Naruto finished the tour of the front grounds, many of the women said they loved the flower gardens and asked if they could have some clippings for their flower gardens when they left. The few parents that were nervous at first openly hugged Naruto and told him how handsome he was or how cute he was to his embarrassment and how they loved the compound so far. Some of the guests, his friends and former rivals from other teams, had changed a lot in the 3 years he was gone. He'd only noticed a small change at the meeting a week ago, but now he could really see a big difference in Nae. He'd really relaxed a lot for a Hyuga anyway. He was still logical and arrogant, but nowhere near as bad as he was during the Chunin exams, and he'd lost the R-Fate I's determined at birth outlook on life. He'd made up with Hinata and treated her like a sister. He even seemed to be rather protective of her. He wasn't the same person that had tried to kill Hinata 3 years ago in their match. And near them since they came in, of course, was Hanabe, Hinata's little sister. She'd had a huge, "You're so cute, I want to snuggle you" look on her face since he dropped his hench. She was just like Hinata in so many ways, but wasn't as shy. Though she was 3 years younger than Hinata, Naruto had developed an eye for women and could see that Hanabe had started to blossom into a beauty like Hinata, maybe even faster. And from the way Kahameu got nervous every time they saw each other, she'd already turned some heads. She also dressed like Hinata used to. In fact, he'd swear that she wore Hinata's old gray jacket. Something about the way she wore it made him think. Of all his guests, there were 3 Naruto was happiest to see make it. Before they went into the house, everyone took a few minutes to either look at the flower garden or visit with people they didn't get many chances to talk to in a social situation for various reasons. Naruto had already asked Hinata and Sakura to take in all the presents so they didn't have to carry them the whole time, which they did happily. He'd used this time to catch up with them. He walked up to them quietly. Na saw what one of them was doing very subtly, but not for Naruto's senses. Na just couldn't help himself to a little prank. On the way, he saw the 2 with his target see him sneak up on the other member of the trio. He gave them a please don't tell him look. The girl nodded ever so slightly with a slight smirk. The boy didn't seem to react at all, but Na saw agreement in his eyes. Na got close before he made his move. Several people nearby saw what was coming and silently let the others capable of reading their subtle signals to watch the approaching entertainment. She's even more impressive. Topless, Na said from right behind him. It was a true statement, but only 2 other people there knew it. One was Sunyunat. The other was the object of the boy's subtle stare at her. Ah! He yelled and spun around. Angry, he got caught, ready to attack the person that did it until he saw who it was. Nah! Don't do that to me. Everyone that had seen it burst into laughter. That's what you get for staring at a woman's chest. Kano, you pervert. Tamari said. Sorry, Tamari, Kankiro said apologetically. Quite entertaining, nah. Gar said emotionlessly. Thanks, Gar. I'm glad you could make it. I know from Sunyunad how much work is involved in being a Hokage. Congratulations by the way. Na said thank you Na. Gar said his expression never changed in the slightest. Na mimicked Gar's pose and expression. You've loosened up since I last saw you. Na said with the same emotionless tone Gar used. Na smiled when he saw the corners of Gar's mouth curl slightly in a moose method. Gar gave a thumbs up and faked a big Naruto-like grin. I'm mimicking you. Believe it. Naruto's jaw hit the ground in shock as did Tamer's and the nearby adults that knew him from the Chunin exams. Did Gar just? Na said in shock at what he just seen and heard. Garo returned to his normal pose and laughed. Not the psychotic laugh of 3 years ago, but a genuine friendly laugh, though brief. He gotcha. I don't believe it, Kanro yelled. Everyone turned to look at the hysterically who'd been forgotten in the Komoden. The great prankster was outdone by my little brother Gar. Kanguro said red-faced. Everyone laughed at that, including Na. It's great seeing you again, Gar. I admit defeat. Gar actually gave a full genuine smile at this. Thank you, Na. Tamari stepped up and hugged her youngest brother. Then turned to Naruto and smiled in a way that made him a little nervous because the other person he'd seen smile at him like that was T. Ouya. Hey brat, you've grown a lot since I saw y'all last. I love the place so far and you look really good. The ears are adorable. Tamari was 3 years older than him and about an inch taller, but he noticed extremely subtly so as not to upset her that she was about as well developed as Tuya based on how her slightly baggy shirt fit her. Her blonde hair was now down to her waist, but still in her signature 4 ponytails. Oh. And thanks for teaching a lesson for spying on that girl. Is the Tuya from 3 years ago? I thought I killed her, Tamari said. Na quickly pulled Tamari aside to talk privately. Yes, it is. She was severely injured and almost died. She's been in a coma since then and just came out of it last week when I removed her curse mark. Tamari was surprised to say the least, but Narat quickly told her the basics and said he'd explain more later if she wanted. She agreed. She didn't want to hold up the tour. Everyone gathered by the door and Narat led them into the main hall. Everyone was extremely impressed. The floor was white marble. The large couch was ornately carved and beautifully stained wood with black leather cushions. The 2 chairs were similarly designed, large and very comfortable. All the tables in the room were large and sturdy, but beautifully crafted. All the women in the room, regardless of age, followed around the room as she told them about the furniture and all the pictures and paintings on the walls. On the wall to the left of the door as you enter, about 25 feet away was a huge stone fireplace with mantle above which hung on the wall was an extraordinarily beautiful katana. The women recognized it instantly because of who used to wield it. And as expected, Tenten didn't just stare at it, she drooled over it. Didn't say anything, especially when Tenten called her father over to see it. But Tentens were nearly tenting her loose silk dress. She was so excited. The girl has a serious weapon fetish, and it looks like some really elong. I better send her to Hotaru's tomorrow for some clothes. And smirked. It only took 5 minutes of some of the most earnest begging you've ever heard in your life for Narat to take it down and let Tenten and her father examine it closely. Tenten was not a happy girl when her father made her release the katana so Naruto could put it away and they could continue the tour. She felt better when Na promised he'd make it up to her later. She saw the grin on his face and knew Na never broke a promise, so she smiled and relented. Tenten loved the house, especially when she saw a weapon on the wall, but she kept her composure for the rest of the tour, mostly. She knew it'd be worth it. I can always go back and look at it later, Tenten thought with a smile. She knew cooking wasn't really her thing, as anyone who'd tasted her food would testify to, but she was very impressed by the kitchen. It was massive. She did comment expertly on the knives, though. They were weapon quality and as sharp as the blades sold in her father's shop, which he agreed on after he checked for himself. That made Naro smile. Everything they saw was handmade. Nothing in the entire house was mass-produced. Not even the towels in the bathrooms, which were as large as most of the shops in the village. The private hot ring at the back of the house was even bigger. It's one of the only 3 in the village. The seant was at the public bath house. The last being in the Hokage mansion. The first floor, everyone soon discovered, was more like a first-class resort than a home. The second floor, however, was like a hotel in many ways, primarily due to all the bedrooms. Also, on the second floor was the Namikaze family library. Sunyunad told the amazed group with a little embarrassment that it was even more extensive than the library at the Hokage compound. The collection of books and scrolls had everyone glassy-eyed, especially after Tsunade told them that there were scrolls here, even the Hokage library didn't have. Many were collected from around the world, but most were created by Naruto's father, Manado, who was a master of creating new seals and jutsu of every kind, taijutsu, genjutsu, and enjutsu, as well as every element from the 5 common affinities to the extremely rare metal affinity, which event Tsunade had only seen once in her life. A few are bloodline related and usable only by members of certain clans. Jiraiya said, then smirked at Sunyunad knowingly. Curious, everyone turned to Sunyunad, who immediately changed the subject and glared venomously at Jiraiya. Na didn't say where it was, but he mentioned there was a special vault of scrolls that were far too powerful to keep in the library, similar to the Forbidden Scrolls of the Hokage. One book in particular caught everyone's attention as they prepared to continue the tour. Most had missed it when they came in. It was a huge book, 3 feet wide by 4 feet high and 8 in thick. It was very old, but in very good condition. It was leather-bound with a familiar orange swirl on the cover and had a black metal lock on it. What's in it, Naran? Sakura asked, her love of books and scrolls, no secret. I don't know, Sakura-chan. Na said, scratched the back of his head and smiled. She won't let me open it yet, but we're pretty sure that key from the box I got is for the lock. I do know that it's from Dad's family, a special Namikaze album or something, right? Bar-chan's left eyebrow twitched. Hi, and for now, it stays locked, you little brat. Na frowned and glared at Sunyunad. With the last few rooms checked, one of which was the master bedroom that Na used, everyone headed downstairs to the dining hall where a huge buffet was being set up by the new hired staff. After a brief struggle with Choji to keep him from starting early, Naruto took everyone out the back door to get to the last part of the tour, including a whimpering Choji who waved to the food. "I'll see you soon," Choji said to the food. As all the guests discovered, the bulk of the compound was the grounds behind the house. The rest was a huge obstacle course that even to the Junin present looked formidable. There were 4 separate training areas, each with its own unique features and an almost 2-acre lake. Before we get to the fun, let's go back to the house and get some food. Na said. Choji cheered. We're going to need it, Na said seriously and smirked. Some of them laughed, a few excitedly, and a couple quite nervously the way Naruto's tails waved excitedly behind him. Not everyone was worried or even excited about what was going to happen, as some of the adults weren't skilled shinobi, so they couldn't enjoy the training areas and obstacle course. Which everyone figured was part of what Naruto had planned. Once back inside the house, everyone dug in, though only a few with as much enthusiasm as Naruto ate ramen. Everyone found at least 2 things they loved, and Choji had no problems at all. He methodically worked his way down the tables. Na stopped counting after Choji filled his 12th plate. His only repeat item was his favorite, barbecued pork. There were several highlights during the meal, but everyone's favorite was without a doubt a certain guest's reaction to finding one of the 6x 5 feet food tables contained every conceivable variety of dango. Several of the guests, like Karani, could swear they saw Anko's eyes tear up as she slowly approached the table as if she was meeting Kami in person. Coming in a very close second, though, was Naruto's potentially fatal mistake of actually telling Anko it was his idea to do a dango table before she'd starting indulging in her favorite food in the world. Even years later, many would talk about how if it wasn't for the nearby Kurane and Tsunade, Anko very likely would have literally squeezed the life out of Naruto, she'd hugged him so hard. He did faint though, mainly because Anko had squeezed basically all the air from his lungs. Once he woke up, she'd apologized profusely. Unlike the hugging incident a week ago, she didn't care if they told people about this. What no one heard though was as the lunch feast ended, Anko whispered to Na. "That's to I owe you, Narat, ___," Anko said very slightly. Luckily, he was on the edge of the crowd and excused himself to use the restroom. What he actually did was splash some cold water on his face while using all his willpower to keep from fainting as the tone of her voice was unmistakable. "Kami, help me. What did I get myself into?" Na said. Kurenai approached Anko a moment later after she saw the very brief smirk on Anko's lips, but before she even got a word out, Anko gave her a very sly wink and walked away. Kur and I quietly sighed, subtly shook her head in defeat, and made a decision she'd fought for years. "I give up. You win, Anko." Kur and I looked around for the only person she'd trust with this and found her. Lunch finally ended and afterward everyone chatted a while. Na walked around and was actually amazed that there wasn't a morsel of food left on any table. Then he happened to see a certain friend sitting very relaxed in one of his big chairs when it hit him. "He's been sitting there for 20 minutes and I haven't heard a single crunch. Looks like Choji finally reached his limit." Narat thought and laughed quietly. Not wanting to interrupt anyone, Naruto waved over an attractive brunette housegirl his age, currently working in the kitchen for the party, and had her tell the staff to wait until the guests went into the main hall before they came in to clean up. Then he went back to sit and talk with his friends. 2 o'clock finally came around and everyone was finally up and mobile again. So, with a huge smile on his face, Narat called everyone into the main hall. Some guests looked around at details they had missed the first time or things they really liked. It was time to open his housewarming gifts. Everyone gathered around the presents stacked by the currently unlit fireplace. Na sat in the only chair near it with an Urtoa grin. "Who's first?" Na almost squealed. "Almost the best, of course, Neji said in the tone he used to use that Na hated. But it was done in a friendly way this time. Neji and Hyashi stepped up and Neji handed Na the gift. I never properly thanked you what you did for me, but I believe this will do. Na unwrapped the box and opened it, his eyes almost bugged out at what he saw. He lifted out a book on the chakra points of the body and held up for all to see. You can't see them as we can, but this should prove very useful. It's from our family library, Neji said. Na thanked them and bowed. Me next. Me next. A girl squealed. Na turned to the source and smiled. What did you get me for my new house, Hanabe-chan? Na said and smiled at her. Hanabe's face turned pink and she wobbled slightly, so Hinata stepped close, held her shoulders to steady her little sister, and smiled. Na opened it and smiled even bigger. To be the best Hokage, you have to know the best taijutsu. Hanabe said proudly, which got quiet laughter from many of them. Thank you, Hanabe-chan. This book about your gentle fist style will go great with Nei's gift. Na gave her a bow, then leaned down and lightly kissed her forehead. Na, Hanabe reached up and touched her forehead. Kissed me, Hanabe said, turned bright red and fainted. After Hanabe was carried away to everyone's amusement, Sakura and her mother stepped up with the gift retrieved fro. The stack. Sakura had helped stack them and knew exactly where her gift was. Naruto opened the rather large box and his jaw dropped. After a moment of stunned silence, Naruto looked at the pink-haired mother and daughter. I hope this gift will in some small way make up for my past misdeeds. Naruto-sama. The pink-haired mother bowed as respectfully as she can, her heart and soul put into it. Sakura bowed. Please forgive me also Naruto-sama. The whole room was suddenly dead quiet, having just heard how Sakura referred to Na. The box contained a set of 14 very expensive and ornately custom painted to fit Naruto's style ramen bowls. Sakura-chan Sakuri-chan an Sakuri bloom please. It's okay I forgive you. Na said both stood smiled at Naruto very warmly blushed slightly then quickly stepped aside even splitting the price between them. The set of ramen bowls had taken a huge chunk out of both their life savings. Half of Sakura's and a third of Sakura's, but they didn't care. They were going to wipe the slate clean with Naruto and give him the proper friendship and respect they should have been doing his entire life instead of judging him so quickly. Sakura was satisfied that she'd made up with Naruto for everything she'd done to him. Sakuri was too until she heard a voice from deep within her mind. She hadn't heard it in 19 years. It's not enough, the female voice said. Sakuri tensed up a little. No. It can't be you. Sakuri thought as a woman appeared in her mind, 2 words tattooed on her forehead. The woman smiled and disappeared from her mind. All the gifts were very nice and reflected each giver's individual relationship with Na. The best though was the final gift, and it was from the most unexpected of people, Ga. When he opened the box, Na was confused. Inside, it was a flat brick of what looked and felt like sandstone. It was 3 in thick, 8 in wide, 10 in long, and on the top inside an engraved 6 in circle was the kanji. For sand. I don't understand, Na said nervously but politely. Who are your most precious people? Ga said emotionlessly. What my little brother is getting to in his own way is that this is a very special stone. First, let me show you what it does. Tamari said, looked around, then smiled mischievously. Hey, Red. Yayu with the great rack. Naruto blushed slightly with a big smile. Tuya moved close to them. Tuya touched the stone and put some chakra into it. Tamari said Tuya did so. She'd gotten very close to the Wind Mistress earlier that day after she found out they were similar in many ways. Okay, Na now set it down. Timu said. Na looked around a moment, then got up, walked to the coffee to the land, set it down so everyone could see it. Tamari stepped up to Tuya and whispered in her ear a moment. Tuya looked at her new best friend, shrugged, and headed out of the room. Where's Tuya going? Na said, confused. It's part of the demonstration. Give her a minute. Tamari waited until she heard a door close. Okay, Na, now make these seals. She showed him a series of one-handed signs. Gather a small amount of chakra, picture her in your mind, and call her name. Na nodded, closed his eyes for a moment to focus himself, opened his eyes with determination on his face to get this right the first time. Here goes, Na said, raised his right hand and flashed through the one-handed seals almost perfectly. Tuya inside the circle on the brick, sand seemed to rise up from within it, and in a matter of seconds, a very realistic 8-in sand statue of Tuya was there. Everyone gasped in surprise. Even Hiyashi is so impressed that it showed on his normally emotionless face. About 5 seconds later, everyone's jaw hit the floor as it moved, though it didn't leave the circle. Moving isn't quite accurate. It did an extremely erotic but brief dance, the highlight of which was the Tuya image shook her huge. The second the dancing started, the younger kids had their eyes covered by a parent or adult, namely Hanabe and Kahameu, finishing the dance, which left Naruto red-faced. It started walking in place. So what happened? Tuya said as she entered the room. Everyone turned her. Their expression made her stop. Some noticed the sand Tuya did too. It's mimicking her. Ka yelled. Tuya, come here. You have to see this. A still slightly embarrassed Naruto said. Tuya walked over to the table. The people around Na moved aside so Tuya could see the small sand clone. So why is everyone looking at me like? Tuya stopped when she saw her little sand clone on the brick. She raised then lowered one the other, then both arms, even shook her head to wave her long red hair, and was amazed to see that the small sand clone of her did exactly what she dissed. That's incredible, Tuya yelled, then slapped her hands over her mouth. Her face red from embarrassment at swearing so loud in front of everyone, especially 2 little kids, when she promised herself she wouldn't do that to Na. I'm sorry, Na, I didn't mean to. Everyone laughed, including Na. He composed himself for a moment when he saw her reaction. It's okay to Yuya. It was an accident and understandable. He hugged her gently. Aro let her know he wasn't mad at her for her slip. Wait a second. Tuya turned and glared at Tamari. You mean you all saw what I did in there? Tamari, you buy. Tuya caught herself this time, but was very angry. I'll get you for this, blondie. Tuya said as she stared daggers at Tamari, who just smiled back at her and acted innocent. Ka and Kankaro laughed at the 2 most boom girls there, but only Ka stared at both. And you yell at me for doing this stuff, Tamari. You're worse than me, Kankaro said, very amused and proud at what his sister did. Shut it. Tamari snapped at Ka and her little brother. Ka stopped, but Kankaro kept laughing. Excuse me a moment, Na, Tamari said before she grabbed Kangaro's collar and dragged him into the nearby bedroom and shut the door. Ga, will this work for anyone? Na said. Ga nodded. Have anyone you want put some chakra into it and you can check on them no matter where they are. Do I dispel it like I would a shadow clone? Na said. Hi, just will it to stop or call another name to see someone else? Ga said in his normal monotone voice. That's incredible, Ga. Did you do this? Will this work for anyone or just me? I wouldn't want someone to take this and use it to hurt someone I care about. Na said nervously. Only for you, Na. Shikaku made sure of that. Everyone nearby suddenly went silent. Information Na gained from fusing with Keilu suddenly aperted in his mind. Ah, I see. Na said, his understanding appeared on his face. Everyone else was still confused. I can't really explain it, but basically it's because Ga has and I did have a tailed demon sealed inside us. Everyone nodded. A scream suddenly reverberated throughout the room. Everyone turned in the direction Tamari dragged her brother. Tamari suddenly opened the door and walked out, a cruel smile on her face. Sama, my brother could use some medical attention. You didn't break anything, did you? Na asked her nervously. Tamari stopped. Break. Tamari smiled and cracks her knuckles. No, definitely bruised, but nothing was broken. Crossed the hall to the room where Kankaro was, stopped at the doorway, and suddenly turned back to face them. Tamari. Sunade yelled. Tamari giggled. He's had that coming for a couple weeks. This just gave me a reason. Both, Sunyunad asked, curious, but still annoyed. Tamari nodded, smiled, and loosened up her fingers like she'd just squeezed something hard. He's lucky he's your brother. I'd hate to see what you do to an enemy. Everyone looked at Tamari nervously while Sunyunad entered the room and shut the door. Not wanting to think about what he's pretty sure she did to him. Naruto changed the topic of conversation. Okay, everyone, before we get to my surprises, I need to talk to Ga privately. I want to thank everyone for the great presents. Please go out back and we'll join you in a few minutes. Everyone nodded, and after a few people hugged him, they all left the room towards the back door. Behind the house 16 minutes later, come on to Yuya. You know you thought that was funny. And don't even try to deny that you do the same thing. Sunyunid told Tuya in a stern voice. All right, you're right. And I wasn't embarrassed. I do that again right here in front of everyone, especially for Naruto-kun. Tuya smirked slightly. I'm just upset I wasn't in on it. That's all. Sama, you know how I feel about Naruto-kun. I do anything for him, even give my life. It's not that I didn't enjoy making him blush. But Tamari used me like he used to. Tuya said sadly, that's what upset me. I respect Tamari, but okay Tuya, I understand. I'll go talk to Tamari. Said thank you Tsunade-sama, to Yuya said. Sunyunid walked over to Tamari as she verbally thrashed Ka for his comments about what happened. Kankuro just stood there humble and quiet. Saved a grateful Ka from further abuse. Before she took Tamari to Tuya, Sunyunid briefly explained some things about Tuya that Tamari didn't know. Tamari held her composure until Tsunade took her back. She stood in front of the equally endowed redhead, her back to everyone so they couldn't see her face. I'm sorry to Yuya. I didn't understand your situation, Tamari said with sincerity and humility, something very few had ever seen from her. Friends, don't do that to each other, and I deeply apologize for what I did. Tamari bowed her head slightly and looked at the ground. Had I known your history, I would have told you my whole plan instead of using you like that. I've never really had a best friend, much less as beautiful and fun to be with as you are. Do you forgive me? Tuya smiled. Sama pointed out to me a few minutes ago that I'd have done the same thing. I was just upset you didn't let me in on the prank. Instead of using me like a tool like he did. Tamari flinched. I forgive you, Tamari, but you owe me big for this. Ta's smile faded and she swallowed nervously. Hi, Tuya. Tamari nodded. Tsunade smiled. Now, with that settled, you two girls go have fun. Said. Tamari and Tuya smiled at Sunyunid. Before you go Tamari, I need to tell you as the Hokage what you did to Kanguro in there was a little beyond what's pedible here, especially at Naruto's housewarming party. Sunyunid said seriously. Tara's confidence took a dramatic nosedive as Sunyunid's words sink in. And although it was technically family business, you should have handled it better. If you'd squeezed any harder, you might have been at Abu headquarters with a Becky right now instead of Naruto's party. Why? Me, said seriously. Tamari nodded. Dear Kami, please don't let me have ruined this. Tamari thought. It came close to being disrespectful to Na. If he wasn't so forgiving towards his friends, you would have insulted Naruto as your host and me as his friend, his Hokage. Sade looked right into Tama's eyes and his godmother. Tamari swallowed hard and got very worried. She defended the one woman in the world she truly respected and admired. I would have been personally dishonored and would have taken immediate action against you with everything I have. Am I being perfectly clear, Tamari? Sunsade said with a very low growl in her voice. Tamari bowed with as much respect as she could and didn't care who watched. This is just between us and is never to be repeated. As far as anyone is concerned, this conversation never happened. Softened. Let's wrap this up before we spoil the mood. I consider the subject closed and forgotten. Sunyunid said and smiled. I'm sorry, Sunyunid-sama. My temper got away from me. I promise you it won't happen again. Tamari said sincerely. However, before they could rejoin the crowd, Naruto and Gar came out. The red-haired Sand Nin found and joined his siblings, both of which were even quieter than Gar usually was, a fact he noticed immediately. Okay, everyone, I have a couple things planned. I hope you'll all enjoy. Before I tell you though, everyone needs to change into the other clothes they brought. I'd hate for you to ruin your good clothes. Everyone talked nervously but excitedly among themselves. Na looked out at his new family and smiled happily. Before we do that though, I have a surprise for some of you. Woodgara, Shino, Tenten, Sakura, Hanib, and last but definitely not least, Tuya. Come over here, please. Despite the order they were called, Hanabe is the first to Naruto and hugged him excitedly. If you want your present, Hanabe-chan, I'll need my arms. Na said and smiled at the girl. Hanabe released him and blushed slightly. Na reached into a pocket, removed a scroll, unrolled, and laid it on the ground while everyone he named looked at him curiously. Na did a series of hand signs, and touched the kanji on it, which unsealed the contents of the scroll with a puff of smoke. When it cleared a moment later, There were 6 wrapped boxes of various shapes and sizes on the ground. Na rolled up and pocketed the scroll. Shino and Ga stood there emotionless. Sakura smiled happily while Tenten and Hanabe bounced up and down lightly and struggled to hold in their happiness. If not for the size difference you've never known, Tenten was 3 years older than Hanabe. By the way, both giggled so happily. To Yuya, to Naruto's slight confusion, just stood there and stared at him in total disbelief, as if this wasn't really happening to her. Since it's late April and I just back last week, I missed something important. Your birthdays, Na said with a big foxy grin. I helped him. Sakura, he wanted to surprise you. Sunyunat said with a smile. Sakura turned to her sensei. I helped to Sakura-chan. Hinata said a little meekly. Sakura turned quickly toward Hinata, surprised for a moment that her friend could be so sneaky. Sakura smiled and gave Hinata a little bow. Na picked up a box. First, I have a present for my demon brother. Ga smirked noticeably, then stepped up and accepted the gift. Go ahead and open it. Na said. Ga opened it and removed a scroll which he opened and read. A moment later, Ga smiled. Thank you, Na. You never fail to amaze me. What's on it? Kanguro asked loudly and got a light slap to the back of his head from Tamari. Ga looked at his siblings. It's 3 new sand jutsu. Cool, Kanguro yelled, which earned him another slap to the back of his head from Tamari. Na picked up another present. Shino, in his usual quiet manner, the bug user stepped up, accepted his present, and opened it. Inside was a large scroll. Shino looked at Na and raised his eyebrows. Na knew that was Shino for a very happily asked. Is this what I think it is? Na smiled. I talked to your parents already. Since you don't have one yet and I sure can't use it, I want you to have this, Shino. It was just collecting dust in the library. Shino put the box down and carefully removed the large scroll, sat it on the ground, unrolled it from both ends, and scanned it quickly. I know what that is, Koba yelled to his teammate. It's a summoning contract, you lucky dog. Akamaru barked in agreement with his master. We could use the extra power which summon clan. Is it Shino? Ka said. The Nield Shino's smile is hidden by his collar. Beetles, Shino said in his rare monotone voice. He took out his kanai, cut his right thumb, then smeared the blood on the other 4 fingertips of his hand, signed the summon contract with his fingerprints, then closed it and put it in his coat. Thank you, Na, Shino said emotionlessly. You'll have to summon one later and introduce your new friends to your teammates. Shino gave a nod to Ka and stepped back for the next person. Tenten looked at the other boxes, quickly found her name, and pouted. Sorry, Tenten, I didn't get you a summon contract, but if I find any more, I'll let you know. Maybe I'll find one for you. Tenten smiled and bowed. But I did get you something I think you'll like just as much. Na held Tenten's gift out for her, but before she could even reach for it, she suddenly froze and her head perked up as if she heard something. What is it, Tenten? Is something wrong? Na said. A huge smile crossed her face that was almost in intensity before she took it. Na crossed his arms in front of his chest and pouted. You know what it is, don't you? Tenten nodded. How? Na said. I heard him touch. Tenten said casually. The birthday guests as well as Naruto all looked at Tenten with I didn't hear anything look of confusion. Tenten tore through the wrapping and opened her box like a little kid. Can I knew it. Tenten squealed very happily before she glumped Na. Everyone either smiled or laughed at the childlike reaction of the teen weapon mistress. Luckily for Naruto, Sakura pulled Tenten off him. How did you do that, Tenten? Na said, as curious as everyone else. I don't know, Na. I just heard him touch. I'd know the sound of metal touching in my sleep. Glanced at Jeria. When he glanced back, she smirked too subtly for anyone but Jeria to detect. Once they regained their composure, Tenten took a better look at her gift. It was 2 kanai, but the blades are 4 in longer than normal kanai, and they're a blue-tinted silver color, a metal Tenten didn't recognize. She then saw that both had a lightning symbol on the base of the blade and halfway down the blade was another symbol, but each was different. Tenten lifted one out and was amazed at how light it was. Then saw the scroll along the side of the box. What's the scroll for, Na? I know how to use kanai. Na smiled. Not these, you don't. Tenten looked at Na confused. Put it back in the box and take out the scroll. Na said and smiled. She did as told. opened it to see what it said. After she read the scroll, she slowly lowered it, a look of disbelief and amazement on her face. She tried to talk but only ended up looking like a fish out of water. Na smiled at her. I know you have a rare elemental affinity, Tenten. Only a FWW. Other people in the village have a lighting affinity and only one is a Junin, so I know how much you've wanted to master it, but can't find anyone to teach you. Well, I just solved both problems for you and to help you as your new sensei. Me. Sun Unit interrupted. Everyone suddenly looked at the blonde Sunning. Sun Unit continued. But that scroll also HSS instructions for a very special style of taijutsu that will rid you of your weakness. Tenten blushed in shame and looked at the ground when her idol mentioned her only weakness, her taijutsu. But it'll do a lot more at the higher levels, said. Tenten looked at Sun Unit with hope in her eyes. It might even make you more powerful than me someday. Tenten gasped in shock, composed herself quickly, and bowed. She literally folded in half. I'd be most honored to train under Usanade sensei. Tenten said, stepped up to Na and hugs him tightly. As she stood next to Na, Sun Unit was the only person to hear what Tenten whispered in Naruto's ear that turned his face bright red. Tentnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnn flashed brightly, and stepped away. Sunyunad smirked and held in her laughter. Sunyunad saw Sakura about to ask a question, caught her glance, and shook her head slightly, which silently told the pink-haired kunoiki, "Don't ask." Sakura had a basic idea of what Tenten probably said, but kept quiet and smirked. Despite her new respect for Na, among other more intense feelings, she had no problem watching him squirm from embarrassment and held in her laughter so as not to make it worse for him. Besides, there was still her present. Everyone watched, smiled, and waited for their host to compose himself again. Na glanced at Tenten, and questioned her with his eyes. When she nodded subtly back, he let out a small sigh of defeat and returned her subtle nod, which made her smile. "I'm either the luckiest guy in the world or I'm cursed," Na thought as he tried to adjust to all the attention he'd gotten from women since he got back. "This has to be Caleb's doing as revenge for being locked up inside me all those years." Na thought. "Sakura," she squealed happily, which made Na flinch slightly. He knew this would probably be a repeat of Tenten, glanced at her quickly, and knew Tuya was still coming. Dread filled him at how she was going to react to her gift. "I didn't think this all the way through. Narat bleed. Your turn, Sakura." She stepped up and took her gift from him. "Please don't embarrass me, Sakura," he whispered to her as he handed over her gift. She smirked at him and whispered back, "I'll try, but no promises." Na sighed quietly in defeat, now fully aware that he was in for a long day. Sakura stepped back and opened her small box. Not sure what it was based on the previous gifts she's seen. "It can't be a scroll. The box is too small, and he wouldn't dare get me one of those itchy paradise books Kakashi-sensei is always reading. So, what can it be? Open it and find out." Inner Sakura screamed at her. Sakura removed the wrapping and saw a hinged box she instantly knew was made from a cherry blossom tree and had several pink jewels on it. Everyone looked at Naruto and wondered what was in the beautiful little box. Suddenly thinking this may have a wedding ring in it, Sakura got very nervous, as did much of the crowd. Many of them looked at Sakura's mother Sakuri for her reaction. Sakura nervously opened the small box. Her eyes suddenly got very big and seemed to sparkle for a moment before all the color drained from her face. Everyone, especially Na, got very nervous at her reaction. Sakura looked up at Na, her green eyes as big as saucers. "Where did you find this?" "Naruto." That's the last thing Sakura said before she collapsed to the ground. She'd fainted from shock, the now closed box clenched tight in her right hand. "Sakura!" Sakuri screamed and ran up to her daughter. Stepped up before anyone could say anything. "It's all right everyone. I'll take care of her. You want me to carry her inside, Sakuri, or do you want to?" "I will, Tsunade-sama," Sakuri said and scooped up her daughter bridal style. "Sakura can tell you later if she wants to," said and got a nod from everyone. "Meanwhile, please continue the party, Na." Na nodded and turned to his next birthday girl. "Your turn, Hanabe-chan." A worried Hanabe stepped up to Na. "Will Sakura-chan be okay, Naruto-kun?" "She's okay, Hanabe-chan. She was just so happy she fainted." That's all. Na said. Hanabe smiled up at him happily. She knew Na would never hurt his friends. I heard some things about you, Hanabe. Like that you'll be graduating from the academy soon. You'll be a great kunoichi like your sister Hinata. Na said. Hanabe nodded and smiled happily. So I got you something to help you. He handed her a familiar shaped box that she opened and hoped it's what she thought. Is this a new jutsu scroll? Naruto, __. Na nodded and smiled. Hanabe dropped the box, opened the scroll, excitedly read it, then looked up at Na with a huge smile on her face. My first water jutsu. Suddenly, Na staggered back a few steps. A very happy girl wrapped tightly around him. Her arms and legs tried to crush his neck and waist. Luckily, he tensed up at the last second. Everyone laughed, especially Hinata, who giggled madly at her little sister wrapped around a very embarrassed Na. Would somebody help me, please? Na said. I don't think we're strong enough, Na. I guess you're stuck with her, Tenten said. Na glared at the giggling Tenten. He looked out in the crowd at the one person he hoped would help him. Hanabe let him go. You're embarrassing our host. A male voice commanded. Hanabe's head snapped up. She dropped off Naruto and blushed. I'm sorry, Naruto-sama. I apologize for embarrassing you, Hanabe said before she bowed low. I'm sorry, father. It will not happen again. Hanabe said to Hiashi and bowed again. It's okay, Hanabe. Really, Hiashi, don't punish her for this. Na said. Hanabe looked at her father. Hi's face was serious and stern. Then he smirked and bowed slightly. Hanabe smiled, happy she wasn't in trouble. She knew how strict her father was about things like this. Go on, Hanibi. It's okay, Naruto said. Hi, Naruto-kun. Hanabe walked over to her father and respectfully bowed to him. Na smiled when Hiashi smirked at him, amused. So, he does have a sense of humor. Na thought. The water jutsu he gave her was a Janine level jutsu, but with her Byakugan, it'll give her an edge against most opponents once she mastered it. Na suddenly recalled something felt strange when she was wrapped around him, and Hinata's hug from before was similar, but he dismissed the thought. No. I've just been hugged too much today. My mind is playing tricks on me. Na thought. Hinata watched Na and smiled when she saw his expression change for a moment, like he was in thought. Saw him look at Hanabe curiously, then at her for a second before he shook his head slightly and apparently dismiss it. Does he know? Hinata thought worriedly. She tapped Hanabe's shoulder. When Hanabe looked up at her big sister, she saw the "we have to talk later" look in her eyes and nodded subtly. Na got the last gift and handed it out for the final birthday girl. Tuya. No, I can't. I'm not worth. Tuya said. Tuya, please take it. With everything you've been through, you deserve to be happy. Na held out her gift again and smiled. Are you sure, Na? I mean, I tried to key. Tuya said nervously. Please, Tuya, take it. I want you to have this. Na insisted. You're sure? Tuya looked out into the crowd at Tamari, her new best friend, who nodded and smiled. Okay, thank you, Na. Tuya smiled a little, then unwrapped it, lifted the top, and inside she saw a scroll. Look underneath it, Na said and smiled. She lifted the scroll and see 2 cards. Tucked the scroll under her left arm, held the box, read them, and looked at Naruto, confused. Happy birthday to Yuya. Tomorrow, I'm taking you to those 2 stores, and I'm getting you new clothes, a new weapon, and then you're moving in here. I won't have my friends living in a cheap hotel guarded by Abu 24 hours a day, Na said. Tuya looked at him, stunned. I've already asked Bar-chan. Welcome home. Tuya dropped the box, cards, and scroll, rushed in, and hugged Naruto as hard as she could. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks. A minute later, Naruto is suddenly the victim of a group hug. Tenten and Hanabe joined in. The rest of the crowd came up to congratulate Tuya. Tamari picked up the dropped scroll and cards. You forgot to check the scroll read. Tamari said and smirked. Tuya broke away for a moment and read the scroll. But I can't use this. I have to play a trust me, you can use the jutsu on that scroll. I know from experience that attack is perfect for you. Na said and smirked. Don't worry, Red. While I'm here in the village, I'll help you get started. Sama will help you after that, since I'll only be here a few times a month on diplomatic missions for Gar. My little bro is the case cage after all. Thanks, Tamari. Tuya said I better come along tomorrow. I don't think Naruto has the fashion sense for dressing kuniki like us. Until today, all he wore was an ugly orange jumpsuit. Tamari said. Naruto glared at Tamari. I heard that Tamari, and Tuya laughed. And a still slightly light-headed Sakura followed closely by her mother. Come out of the house now. Na excused himself and ran to her. Are you okay, Sakura-chan? I didn't think you'd act. Naruto was cut off when Sakura glumped him. The smile on her face at least Erto ear. Sakura broke the hug, bent Naruto back, and planted a long kiss on his lips so hot you could almost smell the smoke. Sakura dropped the red-faced Naruto to the ground and walked back to the stunned crowd with a huge smile of satisfaction on her face. She left him laid there twitching as blood ran from his nose. Sununid and Sakuri looked at each other, then burst out laughing. It took Naruto about 5 minutes before he could form full sentences again, and another 4 minutes before his blush faded. Several people during and after Sakura's kiss looked at Hinata and were surprised to see that not only wasn't she mad, but actually smiled. About 10 minutes later, everyone had chatted. Sununid, Sakuri, and Sakura got caught up on what they missed while inside the house, making sure Sakura was okay. That sure was interesting. I'm happy you all like your presence. Since I was gone for 3 years, I missed everyone getting stronger, and I don't know what you can do now, so to fix that. We're going to have some friendly sparring matches, Naruto said. All right, Ka yelled, followed by a loud bark from Akamaru and cheers from several people. Sasaki even smiled at the thought of testing himself against many of the people here. I know many of you aren't trained ninjas, so you don't have to fight. I want everyone who's going to be fighting to go inside and change clothes. Naruto turned to the adults and gave them a I'm not going to budge on this look. That means you too, Sununid. This is my party and Hokage or not. You're going to join us. Got it. Sununid crosses her arms over her chest and looked him right in the eyes with one of her most withering glares and was armor. Zing to see him glare back just as fiercely. The brat has courage. I'll give him that. Oh. What the hell? It could be fun. Okay. Nah,